Let us pray. Our Father, we thank you for your abundant blessings to our province and ourselves. We ask you to ensure to us your guidance and the will to follow it. Amen.
Introduction of visitors. Presenting petitions.
Yeah.
Petition to present.
Beverly Highlands.
Sorry. I have a petition to present that was put together by a group of residents in Edmonton, Beverly. Thank you.
Reading and receiving petitions. Presenting reports by standing and special committees. Notices of motions.
The Honourable, the Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, I will rise after question period under Standing Order 40 to deal with the following motion. Be it resolved that the Legislative Assembly recognize the achievement of the October 25 federal general election by sending congratulations to every successful Alberta candidate, as well as sending congratulations to each of the leaders of the two parties which elected members in Alberta, Preston Manning and Jean Chrétien. Further, that these messages of congratulations should convey the expectations of this legislature that the newly elected MPs will keep in mind the best interests of Albertans and all Canadians when fulfilling their duties in the House of Commons. Thank you, sir.
The Honourable Minister of Labour.
Mr. Speaker, I'm giving notice that tomorrow I'll be moving motions for return appearing on the order paper stand and retain their places, with the exception of the following motions for return: 209, 211, 212, and 214.
Introduction of bills.
The Honourable Minister of Municipal Affairs.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I would like to file the 1992-93 annual report for Alberta Municipal Affairs, and included in this report is the report of Alberta Mortgage and Housing Corporation for 1992-93.
Yes. The Honourable Member for Lac-La-Biche St. Paul.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to table two documents today. 4 copies of request for proposals, High Prairie Timber Supply. It's dated August 17, 1993. And a letter written to the Forest Department from dated January the 31st, 1991 by the President. It's signed by the President of the Alberta Forest Product Association. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Introduction of guests.
The Honourable Deputy Premier.
Mr. Speaker, in both galleries, the public gallery and the members gallery, are 96 visitors from Barhead Elementary School, including 88 grade 6 students, and there's accompanied by 3 teachers, Mrs. Janice Wichu-Clake, Mrs. Marita Dauk, and Mr. R. Klump, as well as 3 parent helpers, Mrs. Southerington, Mrs. Vardy, Mrs. Armstrong, and 2 bus drivers, Mrs. McNaughton and Mr. Lindquist. Mr. Speaker, this is now 2 days in a row, and nearly 200 people from Barhead have come to visit. And Premier, you should know that the big #1 question they asked of me, did I know Premier Klein? And I said, yes, I did. So could I ask all the students in both galleries, the members and the public gallery, to rise and receive the warm welcome of the House.
Honourable Deputy Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm honored today to introduce to you and through you to members of the Assembly a very active community activist and advocate from the City of Edmonton, Mr. Jake DeHogue. Mr. DeHogue has been busy with his wife Jerry in the Calder Action Committee, the Calder Seniors, the Calder Daycare, West 10, the Social Planning Council, Teen Aid, and the Urban Reform of Edmonton. Mr. DeHogue is is accompanied today by another energetic community volunteer, Mr. Ralph Heckel. I'd ask them both to stand and receive the welcome of the House.
The Honourable Opposition House Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it's my pleasure to introduce to you a young university student who's spending the day with our caucus to gain insight into the political process, and I should say that after just a morning with our caucus, he already realizes exactly how that process should be run. I'd ask that Chris Brower stand in the gallery and receive the welcome of the members of the Legislative Assembly.
The Honourable Member for Clover Bar, Fort Saskatchewan.
Mr. Speaker, it's indeed a pleasure to stand before you and on behalf of my colleague, the member for Sherwood Park, to introduce to you and through you 41 students from Pine Street School from Strathcona County and 4 adults who are with them today. Teacher Alex Newhart, Ken Warenka, teacher, and parents Myrna Parker and Marley Nelson. I'd ask this Assembly to please extend a warm welcome and invite the members in the public gallery to stand.
The Honourable Member for Redwater.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to introduce to you and through you to the Assembly a constituent mine, a leading businessman in the town of St. Albert, and very active in the community, and all things good, you might say. And Mr. Speaker, without further ado, I'd ask Jim Green from St. Albert to stand and be recognized. He's in your public gallery.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton Meadowlark.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last but not least, I'd like to introduce to you and through you 2 individuals who are in the public gallery this afternoon. They helped to make my constituency office work. The first is Maureen Workman, who's my office manager and advocate extraordinaire, and John Kuiper, who's a first-year student at Grant MacEwan College in social work and who's learning advocacy through my constituency office. If they would please rise and receive the warm welcome of the House. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Lethbridge West.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I see sitting in the members' gallery today a social activist and an old friend and someone who has actually performed for the people of Alberta as a former colleague of mine on the Occupational Health and Safety Council. And I would ask us voters to rise and receive the welcome of the House.
Ministerial statements. Oral question period.
Honourable the Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, something rather interesting happened last night, and I fear that the government may not have noticed. And I must say, Mr. Speaker, that the Premier, I'm sure, smelled the impending doom of his party because he has now suggested that he will press the new Prime Minister for a Triple E Senate. Albertans will remember, Mr. Speaker, that the Premier did nothing except send a very timid little letter to Mr. Mulrooney, who was preparing to appoint the Premier's good friend, Mr. Gitter, to fill a vacant Senate seat. And just for show, Mr. Speaker, the Premier spoke to Prime Minister Campbell about Senate elections for something like 2 or 3 minutes behind closed doors. My first question to the Premier then is this. Mr. Premier, can you explain to Albertans why you have suddenly seen the light and decided to press the issue with the new federal government on Triple E Senate?
Mr. Speaker, I would be most delighted. As a matter of fact, I indicated to the Honourable Leader's colleague, the member for Edmonton McClung, that I would be very happy to participate with the Liberals in the spirit of a legislative consensus to press the Prime Minister-elect and eventually the Prime Minister for a Triple E Senate. The point that I was trying to make earlier on, Mr. Speaker, is that while this caucus certainly has been always and tremendously supportive of a Triple E concept, we could not see the benefit in putting any candidate through the process of a Senate election with absolutely no guarantee that that person was going to be appointed to the Senate. And even the honourable member, Mr. Speaker, for Redwater indicated in the legislature last week that it would be absolutely folly to go ahead with a Senate election with no guarantee of being appointed.
Speaker, the Premier, if the truth be known, the Premier wimped out because it was his good friend that got appointed and he didn't want to upset the apple cart. Mr. Premier, will you tell Albertans, will you commit to Albertans today that from this time on, we will always have an election for a senator in Alberta?
Prime Minister appointed? No, I will not make that commitment unless his federal leader, well, our federal leader now, the leader of the Liberal Party, if, and I hope that he does, if Mr. Chrétien, Mr. Speaker, makes a solid commitment that whomever we elect in this province will be appointed, then absolutely there will be an election.
Right on.
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Premier, don't pass the buck. We have an act in place. We have...
Take your time. They find it funny.
I've hit a nerve, Mr. Speaker. I've hit a nerve. I want Albertans to hear, Mr. Premier, that you recognize that there is an act in place, the Senatorial Selection Act, and that before the federal government, whatever the federal government might be, we will take the initiative in this House quickly to ensure that there is an election for the Senate vacant seat in Alberta.
Mr. Speaker, I hope that we take the initiative very, very quickly, and I said I'm glad to invite the Liberals to participate with me, or I'll participate with them, to make the approach to the new federal Liberal government to seek assurances that whomever we elect as the next senator will in fact be appointed, and further, that the new Prime Minister will pursue the true concept of a Triple E Senate and bring about responsible and reasonable Senate reform the way Canadians want it.
Second main question, the Honourable Leader of the
Out on us, Premier. Just don't wimp out on us. Mr. Speaker, our party is supportive of the Premier traveling to sell Alberta to the world. It is something that we have lacked for many years. But Mr. Speaker, there are too many important things happening at this moment, too many important things that must be attended to by the Premier. Education is being undermined. The health care system is falling apart. Children and poor people are being hurt. Mr. Premier, you must reschedule that trip. I ask as my first question, Mr. Premier, will you delay until you sort out the business plans that are falling apart on your ministers, until you sort out the difficulty of unions now ignoring your time delay or time frame problems? Will you wait until all of those matters are sorted out before you leave?
Mr. Speaker, I can assure the honourable leader of the Liberal opposition and the public of Alberta that everything is well in hand. And Mr. Speaker, when this gentleman, when he was the mayor of the city of Edmonton, with massive problems facing that city, he had no problems picking up his little bags and flying to the Far East whenever he wanted to.
Mr. Speaker, Edmonton's debt is going down. Yours was going up. And Mr. Speaker, I'm surprised that the Premier says that everything is in order. Round tables are falling apart. New round tables are being set up. 5,000 people walked on this assembly. Mr. Premier, that their problems are totally in control, nothing is wrong, and that you can leave without many problems existing at all. Tell us that.
Senator DeCore. Senator DeCore.
Well, Mr. Speaker, quite simply, a part, and a very significant part, of our recovery in this province has to do with selling the Alberta advantage and seizing opportunity, Mr. Speaker, and the time is now. The trip has been scheduled for literally months. The planning has all been done. There are in excess of 23 companies who are already in the Far East waiting to participate with us. They are bidding on contracts. They're looking to this government to assist them in obtaining those contracts in Korea, in Japan, in China, in Hong Kong, and in Taiwan. Mr. Speaker, this is a massive undertaking that involves very little effort on our part, but tremendous effort and tremendous commitment by the private sector. I don't think that the honourable leader of the Liberal Party understands that.
Mr. Premier, I remind you that 5,000 Albertans marched on this assembly, marched on education and social services and health care. Mr. Premier, I would like you to tell Albertans what your priorities are. What are they? People are going off to China.
Well, Mr. Speaker, quite simply, my priorities are clear. As a matter of fact, that's why we won on June 15, and that's why they lost. Because our priorities, Mr. Speaker, were quite clear. Our priorities are one, that is to eliminate the deficit by year 1994 and put in a schedule for the pay down of our debt. And secondly, to promote aggressively and vigorously and as strongly as we can economic growth and prosperity in this province.
The honourable member for Edmonton Highlands, Beverly.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, during the election, the Premier told us that he not only listens, but he cares. And his refusal to attend Saturday's rally quickly turned that into nothing more than a statement of election rhetoric.
Right.
I certainly was.
Question.
The Minister of Family and Social Services has refused to hold true and open public discussions on social policy. Apparently, there's two classes of people in this province. Those who get hearings, and the poor and the disadvantaged are not heard in this province. Mr. Speaker, my questions are to the Minister of Family and Social Services. Mr. Minister, why do you refuse to hold public discussions on social policy as Albertans United for Social Justice asked you to yesterday?
Mr. Speaker, I met with a group of people, and I believe they have the same interest as I have and our government has in relation to dealing with people in need, Mr. Speaker. And I explained to the group very well that the 3-year welfare strategy that we have in place is looking at ways of getting the young, healthy Albertans back into the workforce, Mr. Speaker. But on the other hand, making sure that the high needs area of our department gets the services they deserve and require in Alberta, Mr. Speaker. And I also indicated to the group, Mr. Speaker, that 3-year welfare strategy that I am working on, our government is working on, Mr. Speaker, was filed last April 15th before the election, Mr. Speaker, and it is a 3-year plan. What this minister agreed to do yesterday, Mr. Speaker, is I've directed my deputy minister to continue meeting with that group to make sure we monitor the 3-year plan that's in place, Mr. Speaker, to ensure that if we do have areas, high needs and not looked after, Mr. Speaker, that this minister is willing to make the necessary adjustments to deal with those issues, Mr. Speaker.
Very positive. Very paternalistic.
Mr. Minister, I understood that you had instructed your deputy to review the impact of the cuts. Why wasn't an impact assessment study done before the cuts were made instead of waiting till afterwards?
Your plan.
The Liberal grants
Mr. Speaker,
study and do nothing.
that is part of the plan. Mr. Speaker, the welfare reforms that are in place, I, as an individual, have worked over 20 years, Mr. Speaker, involved in the process of the devastation of the welfare program to the Native people in Alberta, Mr. Speaker, is nothing to be proud of. And that is why, Mr. Speaker, I got into politics specifically to look at the ways of dealing with the issue, Mr. Speaker. And I believe the plan that was filed, the 3-year plan, Mr. Speaker, will work towards assisting those people that do not want to be on social assistance, Mr. Speaker, and want to be back into the workforce. The plan will achieve that. But on the other hand, Mr. Speaker, when you have young, healthy Albertans working and paying taxes, we will have more dollars for the people that are needy, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Well, in order to give a hearing to the people who are on social assistance in this province, my question is to the Premier. Before you fly off to the Orient, Mr. Klein, pardon me.
Fellow members, surnames are not to be used in this chamber.
Will you tell your Minister of Family and Social Services to immediately hold public discussions with those affected by the cuts to social assistance to give consumers a chance to be heard?
Mr. Speaker, from what I can see, the Honourable Member of Family and Social Services is doing exactly what Albertans told him to do, and that is to reform the welfare system, to get people off the welfare rolls, to get people back in the workforce, to offer them the opportunity for job retraining, to identify areas of abuse of the system and to take strong action to cut down on that abuse. That program has been put in place for some time, Mr. Speaker, and is working very, very well.
The Honourable Member for Cypress Medicine Hat. The Honourable Member for Cypress Medicine Hat.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My questions all are to the member from Rocky Mountain House. As you know, we introduced Bill 1 earlier in this session, the Access to Information Act, to much negative criticism from the members opposite, who insisted that Albertans were keenly desiring to be part of this process. To accomplish this, a committee was structured of four Conservative MLAs and 3 Liberal MLAs to tour the province to get input from all Albertans. They recently attended, as a matter of fact, last Friday in Medicine Hat. I attended the afternoon session at which there was 1 individual in attendance. Could the member tell us, is this typical of the attendance around the province?
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. In answer to the question, the honourable member is absolutely correct. There was only 1 person there in the afternoon. In the evening, there were 3 other people attended, along with the same individual again. The attendance throughout the province has been somewhat varied. The committee has attended sessions in the city of Calgary, at which there were 30-plus presentations, the city of Red Deer 2, and as I reported earlier in our tour of northern Alberta, the attendance was much similar to what we had in Medicine Hat.
Appears like you could describe attendance as low to abysmal, and looks like the Liberals were wrong again. Is this poor attendance, do you think, due to lack of some kind of appropriate advertising, or is it just due to the fact that people are relatively happy with Bill 1?
Well, Mr. Speaker, to make the House aware of the advertising, there were 2 press releases went out, one at the time of the committee was struck, and then one later as we developed our process. The weekly papers in the province have all been advised where the communities that we are coming to, plus the communities around, and they have ran at least 6 ads. All the dailies have carried at least 6 ads. We have spent in excess of $26,000 on advertising alone. And just to make the member aware what happened in southern Alberta, I can read off where the weekly papers that had ads: the Lethbridge Herald, the Crow's Nest Pass Herald, the Crow's Nest Pass Promoter, the Brooks Bulletin, the Cardinal Chronicle, the Cold Lake News.
Order, please. The honourable member has made his point. Final supplemental.
Do you consider this to be a good utilization of the valuable time of 4 members and a good utilization of taxpayer resources?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, certainly our Premier and this government believes in public consultation. And in this important issue, we have said that that's what we are going to do. We are also receiving written submissions and are still encouraging people to write in. The upcoming weekend, we will be in Edmonton. So far, there are about 22 people registered for formal presentations. On Saturday, next Saturday, we will be going to Vermilion. I understand that out there are only 2 people pre-registered.
The honourable member for Edmonton Whitemud.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. 2 weeks ago, we found out that taxpayers were paying $75,000 per month, plus a $125,000 completion fee to sell gainers. Last week, we found out that taxpayers paid over $1 million in fees to sell Syncrude. How much? Yesterday, we found out that taxpayers could be forking out $250,000 to sell Northwest Trust. Now we have Alberta Intermodal Services on the block. To the Minister of Economic Development and Tourism, is the sale of Alberta Intermodal Services being handled in-house, or has the government once again hired an outside firm?
Oh, good question.
Mr. Speaker, we're in the final days and the final process of dealing with the final resolution of Alberta Intermodal Services. And Mr. Speaker, well, I will have it rather definitively here in a matter of seconds. You find my note on it. That in essence that we will realize more dollars out of the sale than the province ever put into it. And we will have successfully concluded a privatization to the benefit of the province of Alberta, Mr. Speaker.
Real estate people,
The privatization, Mr. Speaker, occurred utilizing interests within the province of Alberta and the best expertise we get outside of the province of Alberta. The bottom line is, Mr. Speaker, that the taxpayers of Alberta will have received more to the privatization of Alberta Intermodal Services Limited than was ever invested by the taxpayers of the province of Alberta.
Mr. Speaker, I can give the Deputy Minister the phone number of the director in his department who is responsible for the sale. My question is to the Deputy Minister, why is it that you can handle this house, yet the provincial treasurer has to go outside to sell Northwest Trust, Gainers, and other entities?
Mr. Speaker, it sounds to me that the honourable member is angry at me because we've had a successful sale. And Mr. Speaker, there are 88 young people from Barhead, and I don't want them to feel that I'm being chastised because we've done something successfully, Mr. Speaker. As a matter of fact, it sounds to me it was a pretty good deal. Mr. Speaker, I indicated there's a combination of the best experts that we have within the public service and consultation with the private sector as well. I would repeat again, the bottom line is the province of Alberta has received more than was ever invested. It was one of the most successful privatizations that I'm aware of ever, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, I am angry because that minister is deliberately misleading this House.
That's right.
Order, please. Order. Order, please. The honourable member knows that that is clearly unparliamentary language, and the chair would ask him to please withdraw.
Mr. Speaker, I regret I cannot withdraw that statement because it's true.
Honourable member, the chair urges you to reconsider this position because that there will be no point of privilege at all. If the honourable member refuses to withdraw those words, the chair will have no alternative but to ask him to leave the chamber.
The question that I had phrased was very simple. Was the deal going to be done in-house or outside? It is clear that it's being done in-house, and the minister would not answer the question, although he has the facts in hand. If I have impugned his character by stating these facts, I withdraw the statement.
Now, honourable member, this is not a question of impugning character. This is a clear question that deliberately misleading the House is not parliamentary language. That's clear everywhere. And the honourable member should realize what the ground rules are, and the chair again urges him to withdraw those words.
Mr. Speaker, I withdraw the words that I uttered, that he deliberately misled the House.
The honourable member for Peace River, followed by Lethbridge East.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Honourable Minister of Transportation and Utilities. There's been a strong move by this government to remove interprovincial trade barriers, but it seems to me the present agreement we have with the province of BC has a significant flaw. Mr. Minister, can we do anything about the fact that a BC trucker can work in Alberta without paying any additional costs, whereas an Alberta trucker wishing to enter British Columbia to do work must pay the full sales tax on the value of his equipment before he can cross the border?
Mr. Speaker, it is an important issue, and the member is right that an Alberta trucker on entering BC has to do one of two things. He either has to apply for a permit to operate in that province, which is sometimes hard to get, and if they want to work there on a full-time basis, they have to pay the sales tax of their unit, and also they have to have authority from the trucking industry in BC to be able to work there. Mr. Speaker, I have had under negotiation some discussion with the Transportation Department in British Columbia, and hopefully we can resolve this matter somewhat to the benefit of Alberta truckers.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. To the Minister, can you tell us what kind of agreements we have with the other provinces relative to interprovincial trucking regulations?
Mr. Speaker, we have a Trans-Canada agreement that is working very well. We've had bilateral agreements with Saskatchewan that's working well. The thing that is difficult in regards to British Columbia is that they have a sales tax and they regulate the trucking industry in British Columbia, and we don't have a sales tax, fortunately, in Alberta, and we don't regulate our truckers in Alberta. But as I've mentioned at the outset, I will be discussing this further with the British Columbia trucking industry, and hopefully we can come to some resolution of the issue.
For Lethbridge East.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. During the late 1980s, the Broiler Marketing Board refused to expand quota to include roaster chickens needed for the chicken burger market. 15 producers in Alberta took the risk and initiative to make success of this adventure, only to have the Broiler Board later take over this production and allocate quota to their original producers. Only after a court challenge were these producers recognized and given a temporary quota. Mr. Speaker, my question is to the Minister of Agriculture. Is it not the mandate of the Alberta Agricultural Products Marketing Board to ensure such inequities do not occur in the orderly marketing of products in this province?
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and certainly one of the objectives of supply management is to provide a service both to the consumer and to the producer. That's the upside. The downside, of course, is that there are problems in trying to access the opportunity to produce and to market. And this is perhaps one of the problems that is involved in supply management, and it's fairly clearly identified that the freedom to produce and the freedom to market is not there for the producer. We try to work with the supply management groups through our department, and will continue to do so. And we try to assist in every way that possibly can.
Good answer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Minister, should it not have been the mandate of the Agricultural Products Marketing Board to ensure that the people who took the initiative and developed this market get first priority on this new quota?
The Product Marketing Council works very closely with the marketing boards and with producers as well. And the supply management group basically administer the marketing board. They administer the privileges, and that's the way that it's designed to operate. It's not just in Alberta, but it's designed to operate that way throughout all of Canada. The problem is when you want to try and expand and access particularly foreign markets, it becomes very difficult because supply management serves the domestic market very well. It serves that purpose very adequately. But the problem with supply management, of course, is when you start expanding and trying to access foreign opportunities. And that, obviously, is the situation that's developed here.
Mr. Speaker, these 15 producers produced into the market that were slaughtered here in Edmonton, and yet they didn't receive any recognition. Why is it that the marketing boards can't build into their mandate an ability to recognize people who take on an initiative and expand the industry to create value added for Alberta agriculture?
Good point.
Well, I certainly can't argue with the honourable member from Lethbridge East in that we have to realize that the whole process of supply management was introduced to Canada by the Liberal government. It was the Liberal government that introduced and laid down the guidelines. So to start with, if we're going to be critical of the issue, perhaps we have to look at home. This is where the supply management process came from. We are working in trying to access the opportunities. Alberta has stood alone in opposing Article 11. In the process of the GATT discussions, Mr. Speaker, I think it's very important to recognize that Alberta has been the only province in Canada that has opposed Article 11 in the GATT negotiations. We feel that tariffication is the proper way. And if we had tariffication, we would be able to access these markets that are available, foreign markets that indeed would allow the industry to expand and to grow.
Good answer. The honourable member for Red Deer South.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I attended the Education Roundtable in Edmonton this past weekend as an observer, and there was two key recommendations that came forth from my perspective. They were, first of all, equity of access and funding for all students across this province, and secondly, that the best decisions on spending priorities and curriculum, etc., are made at the place closest to the student. My question to the Minister of Education is, what steps are being taken to ensure that the bulk of funding is being directed to the priorities of the consumer being defined as the parent and their children, and perhaps even the teacher, as they are the ones closest to the students?
Mr. Speaker, the roundtables, as members of the Assembly know, have just been concluded, and therefore I think that we have to, in the proper manner, wait for the final report to be compiled. But I would like to indicate that if one was to make an estimate of what the major themes or conclusions were arising out of the roundtables, the direction that resources should be directed to the school level was certainly there. And also, Mr. Speaker, the idea that parents at the local level, at their local school level, should have additional input into the education of their students was also supported. Mr. Speaker, no specific decisions have been made. However, I am taking seriously the recommendation that came from the roundtable, and that is that the school councils, which are already provided for in legislation for the public and separate schools of this province, should be strengthened in some way. Perhaps they should be allowed to take on additional responsibilities.
Thank you, Mr. Minister. Do you have a plan that effectively downsizes Alberta education, it being the furthest from the student, by a disproportionate share of the spending reductions?
Mr. Speaker, as I've indicated previously in the Assembly, we do not have any approved plan or any decisions that have been made ahead of time at all. But certainly I understand the interest that the honourable member has in this particular topic, and that is certainly something to be considered as we move towards developing our plan following these roundtables.
In view of the strong endorsement with fiscal equity, when will a decision on equity funding be made?
Mr. Speaker, the honourable member has correctly identified another dominant theme arising out of the roundtables and our other consultative activities. And this particular matter, Mr. Speaker, has been under examination for some time. We are working actively on a solution to that particular problem, and I am hopeful that there will be one in place for the 1994-95 budget year.
The honourable member for Edmonton Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the biggest recommendation from the round tables was don't cut education. Get the message. Mr. Speaker, the government has proposed to remove a section of the School Act that allows school boards to provide those health services that the school board deems necessary. Those are things like physiotherapy, audio therapy, physio again, aids for students who are disabled. Several parents have approached me, and parents are really concerned around this province that removing this section from the Act, Section 39 for the Minister, would in essence remove those services from disabled children. I'd like to ask the Minister the question, which is how can the Minister assure these parents that their services for disabled students are going to be provided when in fact he's removing the section from the Act that allows school boards to provide that service?
Mr. Speaker, this particular topic was raised and debated in both in debate on Bill 8 when it was in Committee of the Whole. Mr. Speaker, as I explained at that time, the removal of Section 39 from the School Act does not in any way prevent school boards from providing services to students along the lines that the honourable member has just referred to.
Well, in that case, Mr. Speaker, in that case, could the Minister please enlighten the whole House and tell us what section of the Act now, once Section 39 is gone, what section of the Act is going to allow school boards to provide these badly needed health-related services?
Mr. Speaker, as the honourable member fully knows, I do not likely have the legislation here in front of me, but I'm quite prepared to copy the Hansard that was developed from our debate on Bill 8 and provide him with a copy.
He knows one part of the Act, but not the other part of the Act. Well, I'd like the Minister to explain the connection between removing Section 39 from the Act and the section in the Roundtable Workbook that defines services to special needs children, and I'm quoting, going beyond a basic education.
Mr. Speaker, as I indicated to the honourable member, the links between the different sections of the School Act were well discussed in debate on Bill 8. Section 39 deals with a situation which dealt with health services prior to the development and introduction and passage of a new Public Health Act in this province, which covers that particular area of services. And that matter, as I said, has been, I think, well dealt with, Mr. Speaker, in the legislature.
Honourable member for Calgary McCall.
I'm going to go here.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is for the Premier. Would the Premier please outline what actions he will be taking with respect to conveying a message to the new Prime Minister and government in Ottawa that the people of Alberta support a healthy, competitive airline industry, and there is room for both Air Canada and Canadian Airlines International to grow and prosper.
Good question.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is perhaps one of the most critical issues facing Alberta today, because this indeed represents thousands and thousands of jobs, many of them based right here. And notwithstanding the Liberal Party's opposition, this Liberal Party's opposition to supporting Canadian Airlines International, we do believe, Mr. Speaker, we do, Mr. Speaker, believe that we should make as strong a representation as we possibly can to the new Liberal government that there should be a competitive airline situation in this province, and I would hope that the Liberal opposition would participate with us and convince in the strongest possible way the new Prime Minister that there should be a competitive airline industry in this country, and indeed Canadian should provide that competition.
Agreed. Mr. Speaker, my supplementary question is also to the Premier. Would the Premier indicate whether he would consider meeting with the leader of the Reform Party to discuss the development of his strategy to press the federal government to take whatever steps are necessary to ensure a viable competitive airline industry in Canada?
Mr. Speaker, I would be very happy to meet with the leader of the Reform Party and the leader of the Liberal opposition across the way to see how we can participate together. And I know the position of the Liberal Party, at least I knew what it was then, but this is now, and I would hope that they would see the wisdom of their ways and support wholly our effort to keep Canadian in this province and Canadian Airlines International as the competitive force in this country.
The Honourable Member for Lac-La-Biche, St. Paul.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The present government has just recently advertised for proposals for 20-year use of timber in the High Prairie area. Even the request for proposal, which I tabled earlier today, are based on old data, and professional foresters have expressed serious concerns that there is insufficient timber for existing operation and for new projects. My question, Mr. Speaker, is to the Minister responsible for environmental protection. Does the Minister support allocating more timber at this time when it is evident that we're short of timber for existing projects in Alberta?
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. What this minister does advocate is economic opportunity in all regions of the province of Alberta.
Good idea. That's a good idea.
We have identified a timber resource on public lands in the High Prairie Timber Development Area of approximately 260,000 cubic meters. There are two other sources of timber supply in that area. One is purchase wood sources, and our estimate is 295,000 cubic meters, as well as about 125,000 cubic meters from the Métis settlements in the area. The advertisement that we have come out with through my colleague, the Deputy Premier, the Minister of Economic Development and Tourism, ensures that there be an independent evaluation of the three wood sources. Ensures that each evaluation must separately identify those three wood sources and come to a conclusion that there is adequate timber for an economic initiative in that area.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Again, to the Minister responsible for environmental protection. Will the Minister set up an independent inquiry into the timber supply and annual allowable cuts for this province?
Well, certainly, Mr. Speaker, the whole issue of annual allowable cut throughout this province is an issue that I deal with on almost a daily basis in the portfolio of environmental protection. We are working closely with the Alberta Forest Products Association, with independent sawmillers, to ensure that we have an inventory system and a formula for determining inventory that will ensure that the annual allowable cut will create a sustainable forest in the province. In other words, that for each tree we harvest, we will be replanting another tree so that we will have a sustainable industry, a very important sustainable industry, forestry in the province of Alberta.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Again, to the Minister responsible for environmental protection, would the Minister agree to table in this House the document that he referred to in the first question?
Yeah, all the data.
All the data.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I've indicated in the House, and I've been referring to a note that comes to me from my department on the High Prairie TDA. This is an internal memorandum from my staff to me, indicating what is going on in that High Prairie TDA area, and I'm certainly happy to give the honourable member a further update on that based on the information that I have from my field staff.
The honourable member for Highwood.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to address my questions today to the Minister of Education. Mr. Speaker, the free movement of competent and professionally trained teachers within this province from school district to school district has long been held to be desirable, and it's being a benefit to students as well as to school system enrichment. However, Mr. Speaker, an increasing number of school boards have instituted an unofficial quota system whereby they are entering into the practice of hiring teachers with little or no experience. So to the Minister, does your department fund in any way teachers on the basis of their experience?
No, Mr. Speaker.
Well then, would the Minister support a teacher in this kind of a situation, a teacher with 8 or 10 or more years of experience, who successful teaching experience, who's willing to accept a lower level of experience rating because the teacher has moved with the spouse because of the spouse being transferred to a new community? Would the Minister support this teacher in accepting a lower experience rating?
Mr. Speaker, I would recommend that the teacher contact their association, the Alberta Teachers Association, and also their local school board. And it is at that level, Mr. Speaker, that these matters are appropriately dealt with. And that would be the avenue that such an individual should pursue.
Would the Minister be willing, this is a provincial as well as a local matter, be willing to discuss this situation with the Alberta Teachers Association with a view to bringing some kind of solution that would be acceptable to the whole province as well as to the separate school districts?
Mr. Speaker, this matter falls into the realm of negotiations which are the purview, the prerogative of local school boards and the locals representing teachers at that particular jurisdictional level. And this is the area or the point at which this should be dealt with. If those two associations were to ask the Minister for assistance in a matter such as this, certainly the Minister would be prepared to listen and to assist in any way possible. But it is, Mr. Speaker, a matter to be dealt with in that particular, with those particular associations.
Member for West Yellowhead.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. At present, the Department of Education provides materials to the visually impaired through the Materials Resource Centre. We now know that this centre will be amalgamated with the Learning Resources Distributing Centre during this fiscal year. This bureaucratic shuffling will result in the visually impaired having to pay a fee for educational materials that until now they have received free of charge. To the Minister of Education, why is the Minister imposing user fees on blind and visually impaired students?
Mr. Speaker, first of all, I think it should be noted that yes, Alberta Education is bringing together different sections of the department, different agencies to bring about effective delivery of service as well as cost savings. And that is certainly something, as has been identified earlier today in question period, a direction from the roundtables, and that is that we should be looking for efficiencies in terms of the operation of the department itself. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, in direct response to the question, the materials provided related to the curriculum of Alberta Education for the visually impaired is a service that we expect to be paid for through school board budgets, and we are providing the service in that manner.
Mr. Speaker, why is the minister discriminating against the visually impaired students in Alberta?
Mr. Speaker, this year, Alberta Education was one of the few government departments to receive an increase in funding. There was additional equity funding provided across this province. There is considerable in the way of resources available to school boards to purchase learning resources. The visually impaired are having these special resources prepared through Alberta Education, housed or stored and distributed to school boards upon their orders for purchase. And that service is there, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, why does the minister keep ignoring the Premier's Council on the Status of Persons with Disabilities?
Mr. Speaker, I am not quite sure how that question is related to the previous questions, and but I do not mind at all, Mr. Speaker, to answer the question, and that is the honourable member is incorrect in his statement. The minister is not ignoring the Premier's Council on the Status of Persons with Disabilities.
The honourable member for Calgary Fish Creek.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. And my question is to the Minister of Justice. With the federal Liberal election victory yesterday, what will the... Thank you, Mr. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Maybe I can try that again. With the federal Liberal election victory yesterday, what will...
Order! 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 Honourable members, please, order! Say it again. Order on all sides of the House.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Minister of Justice. What will the minister do to ensure the momentum for review and reform of the Younger Offenders Act will continue?
Mr. Speaker, the review that is ongoing for the Young Offenders Act was advocated by a number of provinces, Alberta being one of them, but is being focused by the federal government because, of course, that act is under their jurisdiction. There's a document out called Towards Safer Communities that poses a number of questions and asks people to think and dialogue about the act and then submit their proposals. I can't think for a moment why, under a new government, the interest of this act would fall. In fact, there are a number of members that have been elected. The member for Edmonton Southwest, the member for Edmonton Northwest, who have intimate interests in the Offender Act, and I would expect that it would still be high profile.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Violent youth crime is a particular concern to my constituents. Will this area be addressed under the new federal government?
Mr. Speaker, as I mentioned, the Act is up for review. In the document Towards Safer Communities, there are actually three questions or three areas that the government is asked, of the day asked to be addressed. One was the minimum age in the Act, the maximum age in the Act, and some relationship to sentencing and publication of names. I would suggest that anybody that has any interest in the Young Offender Act write and submit their feelings and ideas, even if they aren't related to those three areas, because it will help and give an indication to the people putting forward the act, the new act or amendments, what the broad interest is aside from those three interests. And I'm sure, as we've had debate earlier in the Assembly, that there is a diverse number of issues relating to that act that come from this Assembly alone.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Youth Justice Committees are an aspect of the Young Offenders Act, which is not, will the outcome of the federal election affect the formation of an urban Youth Justice Committee?
Mr. Speaker, the urban Youth Justice Committees are few and far between. I guess, in fact, I'm not aware of any formally made up yet, but there are a number of communities, Edmonton and Calgary specifically, that do want through community leagues to implement the Youth Justice Committee. There are 3 in place in Alberta right now that are formally operational and successful, and I look forward to the urban initiative. But it has to be that. It has to be an initiative that comes from the community and works up, and it is not imposed by the government or officials. And you need to work closely with the judiciary, and that's certainly our position, and I don't expect the government, again, the election, to have any effect on the implementation of such.
Member statements.
The honourable member for Edmonton Roper.
Good. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm thrilled to have the opportunity today to make my statement, and my statement will be on privatization. I would like it to be known that I am in favor of privatization. I know we on this side of the House certainly are. All as a whole. The selling off of public enterprises to the private sector, Mr. Speaker, is fundamental, and it should be done, and it must be done. We ought not, as a government, to be in competition with the private sector. And it's high time we started to get into some of these things like the ALCB, AGT, etc. And my comments today are going to reflect the ALCB privatization. One thing when we talk about privatization, the one thing that comes to my mind is why in the world were we involved in the enterprise in the first place? Why were we involved in the selling of this merchandise? Why couldn't it have been done by the private sector to begin with? And if that rationale that brought us to the understanding that we should be involved in still exists today, then we ought to be looking at that and saying maybe we should be. But I think that the reasons that existed in the 30s and the 40s and the 50s and the 60s perhaps don't exist today, and that's why we have to look towards the 90s and the new century. But with respect to ALCB, a $500 million enterprise, $500 million, an entity that has a jewel in this government of Crown corporations. We have had no debate in the legislature whatsoever. This member, and I represent Edmonton Roper and the people of Castle Downs, let it be known that we privatized a $500 million corporation without having the benefit of or the courtesy of a debate in this House. I and every single member of this side of the House, and also members on that side of the House, every single backbench, and the members that they represent. Goodness.
The honourable member for Calgary McCall.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This government is committed to providing a healthy, educated, tolerant, and prosperous Alberta society. However, to ensure future generations of Albertans will be able to enjoy programs like quality health care, social services, and education, we must not mortgage away their future. We only have to look at how other governments have had to deal with their fiscal crises. Only by doing so can we understand the potential risks and penalties which might arise. New Zealand's fiscal crisis has been a popular example for the media as well as many governments. For many years, New Zealand was a pioneer among industrialized countries in the development of a social safety net. Among these programs was a comprehensive universal health care program. Problems for the country started to arise when exports for New Zealand goods shrank after Britain joined the European Common Market. Government revenues in relation to public expenditure. Rather than control spending, the government responded by incurring deficit budgets. However, the economy did not improve as was predicted. Taxes were raised in order to try and generate more revenue to pay for programs as well as means to control the deficit and the debt. The day of reckoning came after the 1984 national election, when foreign lenders would no longer let the new Labour government borrow. A society accustomed to high standards of life, bolstered by the social safety net, now had to deal with the shock of drastic cutbacks. It will be many more years before New Zealanders will be able to give their children a clear title to their country. What lesson can members of this Assembly learn? Deficit spending should not be seen as a catalyst for expanding the economy. If this were the case, Canada would be in the midst of a boom with all of the cumulative deficit from all levels of government. We must never let Albertans face the same financial crisis as in New Zealand. Thank you.
The honourable member for West Yellowhead.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to take this opportunity to focus the attention of the House on the very unique case of the hospital in Grand Cache in my riding. Under the present funding regulations, small rural hospitals are exempted from the general HPI funding formula. Now, the Minister has assured me that she's preparing a funding formula for small rural hospitals. That will be a great improvement because funding at the moment for those facilities has been arbitrary, to say the least. Grand Cache's hospital, with 31 beds, for instance, has a budget of $1.8 million, while the hospital in Whitecourt, with 24 beds, receives $3.1 million. And the hospital in Killam, with 30 beds, gets the enormous amount of $7.5 million.
Getting closer to Westlaw.
All providing more or less similar services. I can cite many more rural hospitals which receive far more funds than the Grand Cache Hospital. Actually, most of them do. Clearly, this hospital is vastly underfunded, and it is in fact in desperate financial straits. The situation came about in spite of very efficient financial management and many voluntary contributions by staff and by community organizations. And I make a public plea to the Minister and to this government to hasten the decision upon an equitable funding formula for small rural hospitals, and to keep in mind that Grand Cache, due to being located 150 kilometers from Hinton, does need acute care and long-term care facilities. At this moment, Mr. Speaker, the outlook is so bleak that without an immediate increase in funding, Grand Cache could find itself without a hospital. Thank you.
The points of order time. The honourable member for the honourable deputy, the honourable deputy opposition leader.
Mr. Speaker, and to the member for Redwater. Mr. Speaker, I rise under Beauchesne 409 sub 3 regarding a question asked today by the member for Medicine Hat, Cypress Medicine Hat, I beg your pardon, to the member for Rocky Mountain House. Mr. Speaker, 409 sub 3 reads, the question ought to seek information. And now, wait a minute. Yeah, cannot be based on an hypothesis, cannot seek an opinion, either legal or otherwise, and must not suggest in its own answer be argumentative or make representations. I'll have to take some reading lessons, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I submit to you that the supplementaries to the question from the member for Cypress Medicine Hat were in fact contrary to 409 sub 3 under at least 3 of the qualifiers, and therefore out of order. Mr. Speaker, it clearly asked for an opinion. It clearly suggested its own answer. And I would ask you, therefore, Mr. Speaker, to find that, in fact, those supplementaries were out of order.
The Honourable Deputy Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, referring to Beauchesne 409 sub 3 as related certainly to the one question, one of the supplementaries that I heard from the member for Cypress Medicine Hat, I tend to agree with the member opposite. It was probably out of order.
The chair was going to say, in any event, that all members should become more familiar with what's written in this green book, because there were other questions asked today that had that tendency. And so I think the chair would also like to comment on the fact that many questions are being asking the government to make a comment on something, or the chair really feels there's a little difficulty with that method of asking questions. That's really not a question seeking information directly, and while the chair does not disagree with anything the Deputy Leader of the Opposition has had to say, or the Deputy Government House Leader, would urge a little more attention to these sections in Beauchesne in drafting the questions. The Honourable Member for Edmonton, for Redwater.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question, referral is in the Beauchesne under 484, referring to members in debate. The Premier took poetic license, if you'll pardon me, for saying what I said last week in the debate on the Senate, and I thought page 1000 in the Hansard is an easy one to remember. Halfway down the page, I'd give my quote again. It says, well, why didn't you break it up? Referring to the election for Senate. We had something going for ourselves. We were rolling nicely. We were electing senators. We were something that everybody in Canada was looking up to. Then we go back to the oldest system of all, as any Liberal or Conservative can tell you, that's putting the bag man in the Senate. Now, how you can possibly say that that was supporting a non-election, I don't know.
Well, obviously there's a disagreement between members as to the interpretation of words.
But I don't think I can remember.
Yes, he does. He does. Yeah. May get
Mr. Speaker, they turned me down on my law exam. See, it's just being a lowly engineer, so I'm having lots of fun here. This is, with regard to Mr. Speaker, I'd like to respectfully suggest that possibly the interpretation you gave to the member for, when the members said that, from White Mud said that someone had misled the House over there, that you may be reading from a different volume of Beauchesne than I am, because under category 490 and halfway down page 148, under what 490 says, since 1958, and that's about your and my vintage, Mr. Speaker, it has been ruled parliamentary to use the following expressions, and misleading is one of them. That's halfway down page 148. I know he did it in the heat of the moment, but as many Liberals are, just by instinct correct, I guess.
Well, just for... the chair would refer to Beauchesne 492, which says deliberately misleading is on... Oh, the chair is prepared to look at the blues, but the chair definitely heard deliberately misleading. Now, order, please. The chair considers this matter closed. The honourable member did withdraw, and as he should have done, and the chair welcomes that. And it didn't require a great deal of encouragement from the chair. He So I think we should all consider this matter closed. Standing Order 40. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise on Standing Order 40, and I don't believe it's necessary to read the motion again. I have distributed the motion to all honourable members. The need for urgency, sir, is that the election has just taken place. I think it appropriate that we congratulate people who sought and have been selected for public service, that we congratulate the leaders, but I think it is important for us, Mr. Speaker, to set out today some of the matters, some of the concerns for Albertans that Alberta representatives need to go to Ottawa with, and I think that Ottawa needs to know some of the concerns of this Assembly of the people of Alberta. So, Mr. Speaker, I ask for unanimous consent to proceed with the matter.
Does the Assembly grant unanimous consent to the proposal of this motion? Opposed? Carried. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, first of all, I would like to congratulate the men and women who did seek public service, and those particularly who were selected for public service. Every member of this Assembly knows that there is much that you give up in public service with your family, in your own life, your lifestyle, and this public service commitment is not an easy commitment, and there are some in the public that are rather critical of those who are involved in public service, and I wish some of them had the opportunity to sit and to follow and to see exactly what most of us, all of us, go through. So my first point, Speaker, is that I congratulate, our caucus congratulates every man and every woman in Alberta who was part of the democratic process. The next issue is congratulating the leaders, as I have set out in the notice of motion. I congratulate Mr. Chrétien for truly an incredible, impressive, stunning victory. An election that was well run, that was decent. I don't think I've heard commentators, as I heard last night, say, commentator after commentator, how decent people were during the election night, and congratulating each other and wishing each other well. That's something I think that's the wonderful part of our democratic system. We go through hot debate. We find that there are many issues that separate us, but in the end, we are respective of each other's positions and of the system. This caucus congratulates Mr. Chrétien for his stunning victory, for the huge majority that I think bodes well for the financial well-being of Canada, and I think for the constitutional well-being of Canada. I'm worried, Mr. Speaker, that we do have the Bloc Québécois with quite an incredible agenda. That agenda being to divide, to take Quebec out of Confederation. And it's almost beyond belief that Canadian taxpayers are going to be paying money to, it looks like, an official opposition that will have special perks, special ability to make their case, and their whole raison d'etre is to simply take Quebec out of Confederation, and the taxpayers will be paying for that strategy. I mean, I don't like it, and I'm glad that there is a strong federal government, and I'm glad that there's a francophone, frankly, that leads the Liberal Party that can best deal with this particular problem. Mr. Speaker, I think it important as well to congratulate the members who have been elected from Alberta that represent two parties. Our party, the Federal Liberal Party, who look like they have elected 4 members in the Edmonton area. I'm sure there's going to be a recount on one of those. There is a recount on one of them. But that is good news for Alberta because Albertans will have an ability to provide input into cabinet and to provide input into caucus. And for a time, Liberals who have seen a federal Liberal government in existence have not had that opportunity. That's good for Alberta. I also want to congratulate those who have been elected on behalf of the Reform Party. Nobody can deny that Mr. Manning has built up a truly incredible success in a very short period of time. And whether you like the policies of reform or not, we must acknowledge that tremendous success and acknowledge, too, that many of the issues that reform hold high, place great importance on, like parliamentary reform and holding a government to fiscal responsibility, are issues that are indeed important in today's Canadian life. So we congratulate the Liberals and the Reformers, we congratulate Mr. Manning and Mr. Chrétien. I now think it important that we put on the record some of the concerns and the anxiety that we have as Albertans for our own elected representatives and for those in Ottawa who will get this message. Mr. Speaker, I'm concerned about our economic well-being. We have a huge debt. We have consistent deficits. And I'm glad that Mr. Chrétien has promised that a plan and a program will be put into place to deal with that deficit and debt problem. It's going to be a very interesting challenge for the federal Liberals to work through the matter of creating opportunity and jobs, and most particularly dealing with infrastructure job creation, and still maintaining a program of dealing with deficits and debt. This issue of infrastructure repair, infrastructure job creation is not going to be an easy one to tackle because in our own province, I recall the city of Calgary, through its then mayor, the now premier, representing that the infrastructure problems of Calgary were not as serious as the infrastructure problems of other cities in Alberta. And so if that is the case, then this is going to have to be accounted for in the strategy that the federal Liberal government employs. How are you going to deal with cities or communities that don't have an infrastructure problem and those that do? How are you going to ensure that governments that have a plan to deal with deficit and debt are not strayed from that program, not taken from that track of dealing with deficit and debt? This caucus will do everything in its power to ensure that we help meet that challenge at the provincial and the federal level. Mr. Speaker, one of the most important things for our new elected Alberta members of Parliament is to ensure that all provinces are treated equally. And I must say that I am disturbed about comments that Mr. Bouchard has made on behalf of some people in Quebec, and particularly on behalf of the Bloc Québécois. Comments that say that somehow Quebec hasn't been treated fairly in allocation of financial resources in Canada. We have had 2 extensive analyses done of this particular problem, one by an economist in Calgary, another by an economist who now happens to be part of this Liberal caucus in this Assembly. Those reports, those analyses clearly indicate that, if anything, Quebec has been treated most generously by the people, all of people in Canada, and that somebody who stands and fools, I was going to say mislead, Mr. Speaker, but attempts to fool the people that elect him or her on this issue, I think that this is most dangerous for Canada. And our elected representatives have to be armed with the necessary information, and perhaps the government and its resources can make that information available to ensure that myth is debunked and to ensure that all people are treated equally. Mr. Speaker, it is important for this Assembly, for Albertans to tell Ottawa through their elected representatives that there should be no tinkering with the Canada healthcare system to take away the kind of Medicare system that we enjoy and like. And that the issue for some premiers or some governments where they muse or think about or try to implement some sort of user fee system simply is a system we do not want, and our elected representatives should be there saying that. Mr. Speaker, it is true that the federal Liberal leader has indicated his desire to put the issues of the Constitution on the back burner. It looks to me like Mr. Bouchard won't be a very accommodating colleague in that regard. But it does raise the necessity to deal with one constitutional matter that continues to give Albertans difficulty, to give all Canadians difficulty, and that is the solving of the Aboriginal problems for Aboriginal Canadians and all Canadians. There are many issues in Alberta that are outstanding, that need to be resolved. I remember when I visited some of the Indian communities, the Aboriginal communities in the north, I was told and shown roads that were paved to a certain point and then stopped because somehow, some way, people were waiting for the resolution of Indian claims to do the rest of the road paving. These things have to be dealt with and have to be dealt with quickly. Mr. Speaker, well, I'm trying to be as generous and as fair as I can in this presentation and not too political, Mr. Speaker. But it is the opportunity now for us to alert our representatives and to alert Mr. Chrétien and his federal colleagues that all we want is fairness. All we want is an economy that is strong. All we want is to be heard. All we want is a sensitive government. And I'm sure that with Mr. Chrétien's experience, we will get that, and we will get it by the involvement of all members of this Assembly. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Deputy Premier.
Mr. Speaker, we welcome the opportunity this afternoon to participate in the Standing Order 40 debate with respect to the motion that's proposed by the Leader of the Liberal Party in the province of Alberta. And the Premier of Alberta has already conveyed written congratulations to the elected representatives in the province of Alberta and the leaders of the various parties that have received representation in the Canadian House of Commons. And they'd asked me to echo this afternoon his personal congratulations in this Assembly to the new Prime Minister of Canada, Mr. Chrétien, to Mr. Bouchard, to Mr. Manning, to Mr. McLaughlin, and to convey congratulations as well to the former Prime Minister of Canada, Ms. Campbell. There's no doubt at all, Mr. Speaker, that in 1993 there have been great experiences across the land. There have also been very positive experiences in the province of Alberta. And there is a similarity between what happened in the province of Alberta in the spring of 1993 and, in fact, what happened across Canada yesterday. It's my understanding that of the 295 newly elected members in the Canadian House of Commons, that some 200 were elected for the first time. In the spring of 1993 in the province of Alberta, of the 83 members elected to this Assembly, 49 were elected for the first time. And without any doubt, I guess when the winds of change occur, and the opportunities do occur for the democratic principle to unveil itself, and the great opportunities for people from across the land, and certainly opportunities for people in this province to participate. And that's fundamental to parliamentary democracy as we know it. It's the instrument that affords the greatest opportunity for all men and women who believe in peace and who believe in participation in an open way that it certainly just doesn't rival anything else. And Canadians, even though the total number of people who voted yesterday in Canada was down perhaps some 4%, that would have been in the last federal election, there's still a participation level appeared to be at the 70% level. And Mr. Speaker, I say that because in recent weeks, as one talked to individual Albertans, there seemed to be a frustration in the hearts and minds of some, and some who would say, well, why should I participate and why should I vote? And yet the visuals that we've seen from across the world just in the last month would suggest to all of us in this country that democracy is not only worth defending and fighting for, but democracy is something that must be protected. And one could remember that it wasn't very long ago as well that we woke up one morning and tanks were in the streets in the city of Moscow, and tanks were being used to shell individuals who sat in a parliament. Although perhaps in a very naive way they attempted to control that parliament, they were nevertheless duly elected. And it was just a few days ago in the country of Haiti that a minister of the Crown was assassinated by his own police force because he dared to say the police were doing something wrong. And yet in Canada, and certainly in Alberta, we've never had that tradition other than one unfortunate situation in, was it 1970? That in fact Canadian forces were hauled out in one part of this country to deal with law and order. Mr. Speaker, we echo again the positive messages taken by the Leader of the Opposition today in terms of those congratulations. And to those individuals who now have the enormity of the responsibility to represent the people of Alberta in the Canadian House of Commons, in addition to congratulating them, I suspect that in the short term there's going to be an opportunity, in fact, for all of us to convey certain messages on behalf of the people of Alberta. In essence, of the individuals elected, only one has been in the Canadian House of Commons. And that happened to be a lady who was elected in Beaver River, and elected perhaps in a strange way in some... Two, sorry, Mr. Kilgore as well. Here, three? Okay. Three, Mr. Speaker, with parliamentary experience in Ottawa. And in the short term, there will be an opportunity for them to discover that new exciting life in dealing in working in a parliamentary opportunity. But they're also going to get to Ottawa, and I sincerely hope in the same way that the message has been conveyed here in the province of Alberta by the Premier of Alberta, and into all of us saying do not get captured by the dome, that in essence that the same advice can be provided to our new MLAs who will be going to Ottawa. My experiences, limited as they are, and with great reluctance, and certainly nothing comparable to the honourable gentleman in the chair, but my understanding is when one ventures east and gets to that capital created by the taxpayers of the country of Canada, all of them, that sometimes you live in an artificial land of great splendor and great opulence, and perhaps you forget the basic roots you come from. And one message that we would certainly want to do by way of conveying our expectations would be to at least convey to our newly elected members of Parliament that they in fact do not ever allow themselves to become captured by the entity known as Ottawa and the bureaucracy and the system and the cocktail parties and the opportunities to go elsewhere than to come back to Alberta and be a part of the citizenry of this province, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, there are a number of MPs in the past who dutifully came back to Alberta every Thursday night or Friday and then went back Sunday afternoon and did that for all of their lives and all of their careers. And they came to be known as greatly successful and grassroots politicians in this province, and our messages to our new members of Parliament would be much the same, that it is to Alberta and to Albertans that they owe their loyalty first and foremost, and it's not to any other system and institution that may exist in other parts of the country. We would ask as well, Mr. Speaker, that our newly elected members of Parliament would recognize that Alberta is a very important part of Canada, and that well, it may very well be true that the majority of the members elected in the province of Alberta may very well sit on the opposite side of the House from the governing party, that should not be a method, and there should not be any intent at all from the governing party to basically say that these men and women who are elected in the province of Alberta are not worthy of being considered as equal men and women in the Parliament of Canada. And secondly, when they do rise in their places, they have earned the right to rise in their places, that the messages they convey are to be listened to. And Mr. Speaker, those are very important parts, because I believe that our members of Parliament are instruments that are being sent to Ottawa to build, to create, to represent, and to build and to create a better Canada, and to represent the people of Alberta in that regard. And I would sincerely hope as well, Mr. Speaker, that they might want to learn from what happened in Alberta in 1993 as well. This Parliament used to be a very acrimonious place, Mr. Speaker. There were times in the past, Mr. Speaker, that honourable men and women in this Assembly who were duly elected, in fact, truly disliked one another, and perhaps that dislike and that acrimony really conveyed across the way in which things were done. But I really believe, since the last 1 or 2 days of August of 1993, that because of the determined efforts of my leader, the Premier of the province of Alberta, and because of the determined efforts of the Leader of Her Majesty's Loyal Opposition in the province of Alberta, that the method of reform and the opportunities of reform that have come about in this Assembly are really quite unique and quite remarkable, Mr. Speaker. And it would seem to me, Mr. Speaker, that while it is that we sometimes do have a bad day, and Mr. Speaker must rise in his chair and he must really take the pedantic approach to dealing with his flock in this Assembly, that for the most part that there has been a maturity and there has been an improvement in the conduct of the men and women in this Assembly on a day-to-day basis. Now, Mr. Speaker, we would sincerely hope that such would be the new approach in the Canadian House of Commons, because we dare say no, that of the 295 members who were elected, and some 200 new ones were elected, there is absolutely no doubt in any of our minds, and we know it to be true, that Canadians have lost a great deal of respect in their parliamentarians. And part of that loss of respect has been the conduct of those honourable men and women and the manner in which they have conducted themselves in the Canadian House of Commons, Mr. Speaker. So there is an opportunity for a new beginning. There is an opportunity for a new approach. And Mr. Speaker, I know that the House Leader of the Liberal Party would echo what I'm going to say, that we take a great deal of pride in some of the reforms that were brought into this Assembly, and we believe very sincerely in reading the party platforms of the Liberal Party, Federal Liberal Party, and the Reform Party, Federal Reform Party, in fact, that there is quite a matching of similarities when it comes to reform of Parliament itself. The opportunity is there, Mr. Speaker. It is now up for those men and women to ensure that the opportunity turns into fact and reality, Mr. Speaker. And it would be quite regrettable if, in fact, they showed up in the circus and immediately were reverted back to their old traditional ways of dislike and distrust and mistrust, because at no time in Canadian history that I can understand are we ever going to have a more unique situation as one we have now. We have a large national majority government, the official opposition represented only from one province with a particular mandate of its own. The possibilities for regionalism or parochialism or provincialism in this country have never been more acute. Now, Mr. Speaker, the standing order put forward, the motion put forward by the Leader of the Liberal Party asked for some expectations and some suggestions. And in addition to those generic ones, we would hope that our members of Parliament would recognize that the vast majority of this province, 2 elections now in 1993, the provincial election in 1993, and the federal election of 1993, the words of fiscal restraint and responsibility, I think, echoed loudly and clearly across all sectors and all quadrants of this province of Alberta. And first of all, and at the outset, we would ask that our new members of Parliament remember that. Remember what the mainstream thought is in the province of Alberta in 1993. And these individuals, I really sincerely believe, must follow in the Alberta model of recognizing what we mean by fiscal restraint and responsibility. Now, when looking at the programs and the platforms of the Federal Liberal Party and the Federal Reform Party, both of them say that they want to balance the budget. Both of them give time frames. There has to be a meeting and there has to be a bridging, and there has to be a commitment to balancing the federal budget, Mr. Speaker. It would be most irresponsible if in 4.5 years we came back and found out the federal budget that there had been no moves made in that regard. But certainly and clearly and without doubt whatsoever that that's a very important area. It would seem to me that our new members of Parliament would want to do what we've done here in the province of Alberta. We've reduced the salaries of cabinet ministers. It would probably be a very important new step that could be announced in the next number of days. And in fact, it could also be a very important new step that the federal Prime Minister and some of the other leaders of the other parties would say immediately they're going to reduce the salaries of federal members of Parliament. We've eliminated the Alberta pension plan, the pension plan for MLAs in this Assembly, Mr. Speaker. I wonder, Mr. Speaker, if that same degree of commitment can be found at the national level. And perhaps in a matter of days we'll be able to find that out as well, Mr. Speaker. There really is concern about this fiscal responsibility and this fiscal restraint that we've talked about and initiated here in the province of Alberta. We've done more than talk about it. We've initiated it. And there is an opportunity there. We're looking at reductions in the whole expenditure of government. We're looking at the reductions in the expenditure of caucus fundings and other things. There is never a better time now than the Canadian House of Commons to take some initiative with respect to that again, Mr. Speaker. And the whole list and the whole litany can go on. But, Mr. Speaker, there are some practical concerns as well. We know what the unemployment level is in Canada today. We know what the unemployment level is in the province of Alberta. Mr. Speaker, we also know We also know that the new federal government has basically said that they have a plan that talks about a national $6 billion infrastructure program with $2 billion in federal funds over 2 years. And basically talks about a federal job creation program that says federal dollars must be matched by the new provincial and municipal spending, Mr. Speaker. Well, Mr. Speaker, there is a difference across this country in terms of the fiscal reality and the fiscal availability of various provinces. There also is a difference in terms of what has been the magnitude of public investment by the taxpayer in different provinces for municipal infrastructure. And Mr. Speaker, it is really important that there be absolutely no misunderstanding at all in terms of Ottawa today, in terms of what job creation should be. There's been some claim erroneously going around, Mr. Speaker, that a recent meeting of premiers, that all provincial premiers supported an infrastructure program at their last annual premiers conference. But one of the things the premiers did not discuss, Mr. Speaker, and there seems to be a misunderstanding here, premiers did not discuss municipal water, sewer, public transit projects, all of which are identified under the new federal government's plan of job creation to be fundamental. That has never been identified by the premiers at the first premiers conference. What they talked about is infrastructure that would assist in connecting the various parts of the country together. Programs and infrastructure that will allow us to improve our ability to export, programs such as national highways, rail, ports, communication, and energy infrastructure, Mr. Speaker. And we would sincerely hope, as we go forward, that there is no misunderstanding of that identification, and the members of Parliament from Alberta would go to Ottawa and recognize that the infrastructure that is being looked at by premiers across this country is basically one that looks at stuff that unites Canadians and allows trade to go on and allows for greater interchange among Canadians, not things that are just simply projects that might occur willy-nilly here and there, Mr. Speaker. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, the new federal Liberal government has basically set a goal of reducing the deficit from its present level of 5.2% to 3% of the gross domestic product by the end of fiscal 1996-97. And it says it's going to do it through spending cuts, job creation, and economic growth. We sincerely hope, and we sincerely hope very shortly, that the new Prime Minister of Canada will be inviting all the premiers of this country into a meeting to discuss the major issue facing Canadians, and that is economic regeneration in this country. It's job creation, it's fiscal responsibility, it's getting Canadians to work, Mr. Speaker. And the leader of the Liberal Party is absolutely correct in his discourse this afternoon when he said that he hopes that the big issue for the next 4.5 years will not be constitutional matters. Canadians have told us clearly in October of 1992 that is not the issue that dominates and should dominate the national agenda in this country. They want to focus on deficits, they want to focus on jobs, they want to focus on economic revival. And we sincerely hope, and we would welcome, I know the Premier of Alberta would welcome, Mr. Speaker, a meeting as quickly as possible in that regard. Mr. Speaker, the new federal government basically said fiscal relations. They said their objective is to, quote, maximize predictability and stability, end quote, for each order of government. Well, we would welcome that. The days of willy-nilly, arbitrary handouts by the federal government and then having provinces in this country be in a catch-up mode with respect to what those priorities and directions are have to end, Mr. Speaker. We're looking at 2 years, 3 years, and even 4 years in this assembly. And our ministers standing up in this assembly are talking about the direction for the next 2, 3, and 4 years, Mr. Speaker. That's a remarkable reform and honesty in this assembly that has now arrived at for the first time in my memory in this assembly. And Mr. Speaker, that idea of stability for Canada is extremely important so that our provincial treasurers and all of our ministers and all of the legislators in this assembly can work together and ensure of doing that. Mr. Speaker, we need to know what the expectation level is about our commitment to the North American Free Trade Agreement and international trade and the GATT arrangements. We need to know soon. The new federal government must know that we expect to continue aggressively marketing and trading Alberta product out of this province, and we need to work hand to federal government. We are not in competition with the federal government, Mr. Speaker. And we know that one of the major party platforms of the new federal government basically is to look at reducing internal trade negotiations. And Mr. Speaker, we're up against a deadline of July of 1994 to minimize minimize the barriers in Canada and maximize the opportunities. And we would sincerely hope that the new federal government will recognize that, and all of our members of Parliament will go there recognizing that that is extremely important. Mr. Speaker, the whole question of overlap and duplication is an expectation that we think that needs to be dealt with. We're questioning whether or not provinces need certain departments, the federal government needs certain departments. Do we have to have a federal department of Consumer and Corporate Affairs on one side of the street and a provincial department of Consumer and Corporate Affairs on the other side of the street? Our view is no, Mr. Speaker. There's only one taxpayer. That one taxpayer must be protected, and that one taxpayer must be defended. It's our expectation that our new member of Parliament will really work to eliminating this overlap and this duplication. We believe that we have to be very aggressive in terms of training of people who want to get into the labor market. We have to get away from the willy-nilly handouts of temporary assistance programs of just give $1 or $2 extra an hour bonus. We need to train Canadians for the future, Mr. Speaker. And I watched Mr. Chrétien, and I thought he was a classy man last night when he said he wants to be the leader that leads Canadians into the next millennium. And we applaud him for doing that. And as long as he understands the expectations that we're talking about, there's no problem at all. Mr. Speaker, the Liberal agenda says that they want to re-examine with the provinces the funding of the healthcare system within the 5 Canada Health Act principles. And Mr. Speaker, we welcome that. It tells us that, in fact, that the federal government now wants to consult with the provinces, something that has been off the table for a long time, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, in the same way that Albertans are now being consulted with by their provincial government in terms of healthcare matters, we believe very strongly, and would welcome and would expect that our members of Parliament would know full well that when we talk about consultation, we mean an exchange of ideas. We do not mean simply sitting down at the table and saying, this is our position, we're intransigent and we can't move. Health is bigger than that, Mr. Speaker. It's interprovincial, it's across country, it's Canadian. Every province is being hammered in a large way in terms of the preparation of their budgets in this particular area, and we need to work together. And it's the expectation of this government and this assembly, it has to be, that our members of Parliament will understand the need to cooperate. Now, Mr. Speaker, one matter that is very important to the province of Alberta, and very important to this men and women of this assembly, and all members will recall that it was this government that took the previous federal government to court over the question of the goods and services tax. Alberta took the federal government to court over the goods and this tax. We lost. We lost. But on this day of October 26, 1993, we want to remind our newly elected members of Parliament that we have an expectation. We've read the programming, we've read the positions of the Federal Liberal Party, the new federal government in Canada, and they've stated, and Mr. Chrétien did, a commitment to reduce and replace the goods and services tax with, quote, something fairer for consumers and easier to administer for business, end quote. We expect that promise to be made good on, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member for Cypress Medicine Hat.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Now, I certainly perhaps won't be as eloquent as the Deputy Premier, but I would like to congratulate the people that ran in the election as well, all members. I remember recently as a new member winning an election and knowing the excitement and thrill of winning. And so all of those who ran need to be congratulated, whether they won or lost. And it is a sacrifice, as I'm sure all new members are learning, that one has to make a family sacrifice and commitment to serving the people of whichever constituency you represent. Now, I also would like to congratulate the various leaders of the parties that won and ran and won, and of course Mrs. Campbell, who wasn't so fortunate. But in particular, I'd like to congratulate the members from the Reform Party that will be representing Alberta. Some of you may have noted my considered comments before the election on preferences, but I think the Reform Party carried the agenda of this Conservative Party forward to the federal level. And it is very clear that the people of Alberta have in some way vindicated the agenda of the Reform Party by electing, I think it's 22 or 23 members, depending on the recount vote. And not only have they vindicated that agenda, Mr. Speaker, but they have vindicated the agenda of this Conservative Party, the agenda that we are trying to put through and trying to bring Alberta back on track in spite of opposition from members opposite. Now, I trust that members opposite will note the agenda of the Reform Party, note how many members the Reform Party elected in Alberta, and then hopefully be more cooperative in the agenda of the Conservative Party, because it is quite clearly, Mr. Speaker, what people of Alberta want. Quite clear. I also believe, Mr. Speaker, that we have in the Reform Party a party that will represent Alberta in Ottawa. It's a party that will represent the views of the West. They are a regional party and are committed to the region. That is Alberta and British Columbia. And it's probably the only party that we could have elected that would present a strong Western viewpoint. And I must say we need this strong Western viewpoint at the present time. We have a Liberal majority government, and as perhaps one could argue, well and good for economic stability, that we do have a majority government. But by the same token, us in Alberta, we in Alberta, have long memories. And we remember the last Liberal majority government and the destruction it brought to the economy of Alberta. And so we need this strong voice in the Parliament of Canada to represent the strong Alberta views that we have, to represent the concerns that we have in Alberta in terms of economic issues. And I believe that the Reform Party will do that very adequately. Not only do we have a strong voice in terms of economic issues, but we have a strong voice on social issues. Now, as you know, Mr. Speaker, we in Alberta are trying to make some major changes to social programs. And these changes were once again vindicated by the election of Reform members. They have very similar positions, or they have positions on health care that need to be heard, the Reform people do. They have positions on deficit reduction that need to be heard. And they can not only present their own positions, but they can present the position of Alberta to the federal government, the position of Alberta on deficit reduction. Mr. Speaker, we do not need public works programs that are going to increase the deficit of Alberta by causing Alberta to contribute on a 50-cent dollar basis to create jobs that do not last, to create jobs that last 6 months and then are finished. That is not the kind of economic development we need in Canada. We need jobs created by small business, as our economic plan indicates. We will create 110,000 permanent jobs over the next 4 years in Alberta through small business. And I would point out, Mr. Speaker, that it is small business that create jobs not only in Alberta, but in Canada. In Alberta, I believe the figure is over 90, well, I know the figure is over 90% of the income, or of jobs in Alberta are in small business. And those jobs, Mr. Speaker, create in Alberta $456,000 every day of revenue, of income, generated per day in Alberta by small business. And that is the kind of jobs we create in Canada, small business jobs, because those jobs are permanent. And we do not create small business jobs, Mr. Speaker, by spending government money to create roads or to develop infrastructure. That is not the kind of jobs we need, and we do not want that in Alberta. We want permanent jobs, not temporary jobs. Not only does Reform have a good position to express our concern on economics and deficit reduction, they, for instance, want to reduce, I believe, the deficit over 3 to 4 years of some $35 billion. And I heard just this morning that, in fact, the deficit may be substantially larger than the $35 billion we were expecting. However, Mr. Speaker, with a program that Reform is adapting from our policies, it can be done. Reform also has a parliamentary agenda much similar to our agenda. Reform wants to bring in free votes. And I must say, Mr. Speaker, this was an issue that was cooperated with by members on the other side as well, and I would congratulate members on the other side for working together with us to put forward our idea of free votes and accepting our idea of free votes. Now, realizing that we had the majority, Mr. Speaker, they may have just gone along because they knew we would win the day anyway, but they did concede to our free vote idea. As well, Mr. Speaker, I don't think it's usual to heckle when we're trying to congratulate on a... In my brief history, Mr. Speaker, in my brief history in this legislature, I can assure you I have certainly never heckled on a Standing Order 40, and I would encourage the members to show the same kind of courtesy and respect.
Right.
You give up, boys.
Boy, how do you continue after that? Thank you, Mr. Havelock. Not only does Reform have a position on free votes, Mr. Speaker, they have a position on members' bills and members' issues. And once again, it is a continuation of this party's agenda to allow private members to bring their bills forward. And in fact, Mr. Speaker, if we check the records, not only will I vote in favor of this Liberal motion, I have voted in favor of several other Liberal motions in the past. And that is one of the advantages of free votes. That is one of the advantages of having private members, the availability of bringing their bills forward and their motions forward. And this, as well, is an agenda of the a party that will be representing us in the West. And I hope, Mr. Speaker, that the Liberal majority there will be as considerate and concerned about these issues in terms of free votes, in terms of the availability of time for private member statements, in terms of the availability for time for private members' bills that these members opposite have. Now, I would say, Mr. Speaker, that I have already contacted our new member as recently as last evening from I guess I'm not allowed to mention his name, but the member for Medicine Hat. Now, he indicates a great desire to work with this government and with this party. In fact, we plan the 4 constituencies that are involved, provincial constituencies that are involved in the federal constituency: Cypress, Medicine Hat, Bow Valley, and one other one, whose name has presently slipped my mind, represented by the member that sits over there. He is interested in meeting with us and discussing issues of common concern to the people of Alberta. And he assures me that he will make strong representation in the federal parliament on the basis of issues that we raise from southern Alberta. And I would encourage all members, including those opposite, who are represented and will be well represented by a Reform member, to make contact with that member, because I'm sure they will all be more than willing to work with them and bring forth the Conservative agenda, the Reform agenda, to the Parliament in Ottawa. Now, in my present constituency, this member, he's committed to working very diligently for us, but he's going to find it very trying, Mr. Speaker. I know in discussions with the previous member for Medicine Hat that there's 10 hours travel one way to get to Medicine Hat from Ottawa on weekends. That means the member must take up to 20 hours traveling back and forth every weekend. And that, Mr. Speaker, is a great time commitment. On top of that, he will have a constituency that is about double mine. My constituency, Mr. Speaker, consists of approximately 10,000 square miles. It goes right to the Saskatchewan border, all the way down to the American border, and just past a small community called Burdett, and follows the county line down to the American border as well. And constituents... in my constituency, I intend to hold public meetings in all of the communities. Now, I could list all these communities, Mr. Speaker, but I see you nodding your head in the negative, so I won't. But it is...
And their names.
Who lives there?
And no, I won't list all the members of the constituent either.
Although you do know them.
But I intend to have public meetings in all these small communities to meet with these constituents and find out what their concerns are. And our new member assures me that he will do likewise. He will be traveling this vast and beautiful constituency, Mr. Speaker, to meet with these people and discuss with them the issues that are of concern to them. And those issues, of course, by his election, we know are the deficit. We know our expensive social programs that we can no longer afford. So our new member is certainly interested in trying to find out and discover and meet with the people of Alberta, and particularly southern Alberta. So once again, I would congratulate all those who have won, Mr. Speaker, and hopefully that provide hope that they will adequately represent us in Alberta in the federal House. And once again, just to mention, I do find and I'm quite happy to support a Liberal motion. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Edmonton Rutherford. Edmonton Rutherford.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, I was hesitating because I didn't know if under our orders at 3:30 we automatically revert. I guess we don't. So it means, okay. You can go 20 minutes. Okay, Mr. Speaker, it's not my intent to go 20 minutes, and it's not my intent to get into a pile of dribble. I think what we're doing here, I think what we're doing here is we are congratulating successful candidates and parties that were able to present their views to Canadians, to Albertans. They were able to present them in such a way that there was a comfort level, and I think that's very, very important. If one looks at what happens, one can, I guess, relate it to a mood of change, or a mood for change. Certainly the politics of today is much, much more sensitive, much different than it was a few years ago. There's a great deal more responsiveness that is now expected on the part of the electorate, and rightfully so. But if we look at what happened, and I think we have to give credit where credit is due, and yes, the Reform Party did remarkably well in Alberta, and stunningly well in British Columbia for a new party. But if we look on a national basis and we look at the new government, what John Chrétien did was really, really remarkable. The numbers, the fact that it's a majority government caught most people off guard. And I think the reason why he offered Canadians hope, he offered Canadians expectations, and it's fine to stand up in this House and kick a bit of, because the type of program that may have been offered is not to a member's liking. But nevertheless, John Chrétien did offer Canadians hope. He did not get up there and say there will not be any jobs for the next 4 or 5 years. And that was a very, very important factor to Canadians. It's a very important factor when our children get out of university and they're faced with doom and gloom, and they're faced with a realization that there's nothing there for the next 4 or 5 years. That's not acceptable to Canadians. That's not acceptable to parents. And what the Liberal Party of Canada was able to offer was hope. What happened in Quebec, I share the comments fully that were made by the member from Edmonton, Glengarry. For us, the taxpayer, for Canadians, to have to pay for the strategy, for the research, for the resources that this party is going to put together, because they want to separate. They don't want to be part of us. And it's strange, it's astounding, it's difficult to comprehend. It's difficult to comprehend why in a Federal Election Act we wouldn't see a requirement that there be representation of a minimum number of provinces to try and avoid the regionalization that we can see occur. I guess what really makes it more difficult is because of the fact that the Bloc Québécois Party was able to achieve official opposition status, we not only pay them what they would normally get for research and resources, but they're going to get extra because they have that official opposition title. The extra resources, the extra pay, the extra perks, and so on. And I don't know what's going to happen. I don't think any of us know what's going to happen. We don't know if the strategy by that particular party will be to try and separate from Canada for the within the next 3-4 years. It's difficult to say, but it is extremely difficult to comprehend that we could wake up in the morning after an election and find what happened. I guess the very, very positive fact is that it was a majority government elected, which of course then minimizes to a great degree the damage, the harm that can be done by factions or across the country, one representing basically western provinces, another one representing one province. And we spoke on that the other day in the House when we dealt with the budget for FIGA. Mr. Speaker, it's very, very important that we send this message of congratulations to the leaders of the two parties that elected members here in Alberta, and to all those members of Parliament that were elected in Alberta. They're the ones that will be carrying our voice, will be carrying our concerns, will be expressing our desires, our demands in Ottawa. On that note, I'll conclude, and thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In rising to speak in support of this motion, I would like to begin by congratulating the Honourable Leader of the Opposition for the manner in which he has used the words in the motion. As I was watching television last night, and as the numbers started to be displayed across the screen, and the Liberal numbers had gone from 140 to 145 and 160, and were moving upward at that point, I thought that it would be a rather interesting day in the Assembly of Alberta the following day, because certainly there might be a motion 40, and it would be seen as an opportunity for the Liberals to really hammer at the Progressive Conservatives. That has not happened, and therefore I feel quite comfortable and actually honored to be able to stand and to congratulate them for the wording that's been used. Breaking the motion into its three components that I find the most interesting, and just to deal with the recognition of the achievement, I am sure that today there are a number of Albertans who feel like I must have felt on June the 16th. It was first, I think, of shock and perhaps some amazement, and I can remember saying to a dear friend of mine, thank God I've been elected, and now what do I do? And I suspect that there's a few Reform people around that might be asking themselves the same thing. But they're to be encouraged. I can empathize with the feeling of excitement and tension that they must feel as they make their preparations to head for. I'm sure that there's many among them that find that this event has come upon them at in a very quick time. I believe, as I know others that worked on my campaign and that live in the constituency of Lethbridge West, that when the federal government, at the time then a Progressive Conservative government, had the opportunity to say to the people of Canada that it was time to cut the deficit, and they, in fact, I believe that the communication spin, or the optics as the word is sometimes used, that they had the people of Canada prepared. They had the people of Canada prepared for some cuts in the federal deficit. And when the honourable member from Alberta, whose constituency I am not sure of, but would be somewhere near Bakerville as an MP, a very respected man, and I respect the man today, but when he had that opportunity to cut that deficit, and in actual fact, if my memory serves me correctly, showed an increase in spending of 1.5%, there was many people in southern Alberta that I think at that particular point in time turned their back on the present government and said, now, where are we going to go? And I'm sure that at that particular point in time that there was people who rose up from their couches and said, I'm going to get involved in the process, and in fact, some of them might have gone provincially, as I might have, and others perhaps went federally and got involved in the reform movement. So they are rookies today. Again, I think I suggest that there's 49 of us here in this room that can empathize with them, and really our hearts go with them on their way to Ottawa, and I hope that they are able to find a way in which they can contribute to the betterment of Canada. In terms of the congratulations to the two leaders, and certainly to Jean Chrétien, I think the story of this man is absolutely amazing. I'm not sure that he might be on the order of some of our American politicians who have gone into the outback and came forward, but certainly this man has been on the political scene for many, many years. I can't think of a politician other than perhaps an Pierre Elliott Trudeau that sticks in my mind as much as Jean Chrétien. He's been on the scene, and I think he has made tremendous contribution to Canada, and I'm actually quite happy for him as an individual. I might have some disappointments in terms of the party that he belongs to and the success perhaps that they had. But I feel very, very good about Jean Chrétien as an individual person. The campaign, and again, if we want to look at why some of the results happened in the way that they did, there was no surprise in southern Alberta, I don't think, to what happened last night. And I can just remember the shock that many of us felt when we awoke one morning. I don't remember the particular morning, but it was late in the campaign, and there happened to be a television advertisement that was being played on television and asking us to think twice. Well, I tell you, a lot of Albertans thought 2 and 3 and 10 times about the sort of campaign tactics that were being used, and in fact, then I think also started to look for elsewhere to place a vote. And so it's in this context that I want to also then congratulate Preston Manning, but I want him to be aware of at least my impression of what happened last night. And while, of course, we have to refer to them as parties, and in this case, then we refer to the Reform Party, I think last night was more of an indication of a movement than it was a party. I think that what happened last night, there was an opportunity for people of all kinds of stripes, of progressive conservatives, of perhaps liberals, and certainly of New Democrat philosophies that grabbed a hold of a movement and voted reform. And I'm personally thankful that they did, and that we've had then this tremendous number of reform elected officials now as MPs that are going to Ottawa. But any movement will be short in duration if they do not find the opportunity in the House, and with the Bloc Québécois being the official opposition, I'm not sure how they're going to be able to do it other than maybe some backroom maneuvering and certainly some astuteness within the House. But any movement, unless they start to define what it is that they are about, and rather than some of the populist, perhaps planks in their particular platform that were presented during the election campaign, unless they're able to take those and make those truly characteristic of then the Reform Party, I think then that there might be some difficulty. Preston Manning certainly seems to show the strength of character, certainly seems to have the background and seems to have a team behind him that can have the experience and will be able to take this movement into a frontline party, and I hope that I'm seeing this correctly, and I wish them all the luck in that. In terms of best interests of Albertans, of course the federal budget is the prime interest that my constituents in Lethbridge West have, and not only here at the provincial level, but as the federal level, this has to be wrestled to the ground. There is no question about this. The federal PCs had their opportunity and failed, and now I think it is paramount that with this opportunity that the new majority government representing the Liberals find a way in which to reduce this federal deficit. I know it's going to be difficult when you run and be elected on job creation, but they must find that or they will bear the wrath, I'm sure, of the voters next time around. I'm concerned about areas of agriculture, again, not because I operate a farm or a cattle business, but I cannot ignore the importance that agriculture has to an urban riding such as mine in Lethbridge West. I'm not sure exactly where the Liberals will be coming from, but there's different portions of their platform that was presented during the election that caused me some concern, and I think we're going to have to, as federal or as provincial politicians, we're going to have to be very, very observant and really keep our eyes and ears attuned to what is happening on the federal basis in agriculture. My biggest fear, though, is in energy, and it comes from a personal experience. I happen to be sitting in Kingston, Ontario, and it happened to be a bar the night that Mark Lalonde announced his national energy program, and I was sitting there having a drink actually by myself, Butch. No, it wasn't non-alcoholic. I was part of the oil patch in those days, and I was a good member of the oil patch in those days. But I remember a table sitting just next to me, and one fellow turns to the other and says, "Now we've got those Albertans," and that was the phrase that was used. Now, the reason I happened to be in Kingston was I was down trying to recruit people for an operation that we had been developing in the city of Lethbridge, and happens to be located in the constituency of my colleague from Lethbridge East. But we were down there pouring through the universities, and while we were there, we were going from city to city trying to pick up skilled people, because we were at that time we were short of people both from a manufacturing standpoint, but also in the oil service group that I was also particularly involved with. And what we had within a period of, it seems like only 6 to 8 months to me now, and it could have been longer, could have been shorter. But I came back from that trip to Ontario where I had been trying to bring jobs back into Alberta, and in fact was giving layoff notices. We were actually downsizing our operations throughout, like we were headquartered in Alberta, but we were operating throughout Canada in the oil patch. And instead of adding jobs, we were now sending layoff notices to people, and there was no question as to what the reason was, and that was the National Energy Program. Job creation leads to training, and I think that in that particular sense that we have to, again, be very astute as to what job creation is going to mean on the federal level as it then translates and transfers itself here into the province. They talked at some length about the number of apprentices that would be added to the workforce, and that's fine. I don't have any particular problem with that, but they're going to have to work with our people in order to have that accomplished. The current situation within Canada, whether it's right or wrong, would have us as having the responsibility in terms of the apprenticeships programs, and I'm sure we'll want to work with them. But those apprentices had best be for real jobs. I don't think any of us, and certainly not myself, is interested in job creation just for the sake of getting a few folks into dead-end jobs. It raises an expectation that can't be filled, and then unemployment numbers even become more magnified than what they particularly are. Similar to my colleague from Cypress Medicine Hat, I have had the opportunity. First of all, I phoned the federal PC candidate in my riding and expressed, of course, the concern that I had that he had not been successful. He indicated at the time that some of the concerns that he thought he had was that perhaps provincially Albertans were moving too quickly, and I pointed out to him, and I thought I didn't try to do it bluntly particularly, but I did want to indicate to him that the platform of the Reform Party showed a deficit reduction that would be, in our terms, would be much more quicker and much more deeper cuts than what we were doing here in Alberta. I then took the opportunity to speak to the winning candidate. We can't really call him a rookie, I guess. In the case of the Lethbridge riding, the person has spent many more hours and days than all of us 49 rookies combined, at least to this particular point. But I did address him then as a person that would be heading for Ottawa for the first time, and wanted to assure him that I would work with him in whatever way I could in those particular areas then that were where both federal and provincial matters might be concerned. It does remind me then of a question that I was asked last night by a phone-in show that was being held in our constituency, and the asker of the question seemed very, very concerned that now we would have in Lethbridge, we would have a Reform Party representing us federally, and that with the people of Lethbridge then provincially, they had a Liberal on one side and a Conservative on the other. And my answer to that question, and it's last night, and I feel the same way this morning, is that I don't believe that the member from Lethbridge East and myself will have any difficulty at all working with the new federal MP. And in fact, when I talked to the new federal MP, he felt just the same. I think that there's an opportunity here now for the citizens of Lethbridge and district, perhaps now representing all of the particular interests that are now on the political scene, that it should in fact create good government for the citizens of Lethbridge, and that of course is my wish, and I'm sure it's the wish of Lethbridge East as well. And so we find silver linings, sir, in whatever things that happen, and there's a new Canada, there's no question. Just what I am probably most excited about with the Bloc Québécois is that now we Canadians, we can now face up to the fact of two nations, or can hide behind two federal parties that might or might not be the same. The Bloc Québécois is going to be in the House, the Reformers are going to be in the House, and we're going to have a truly interesting time, and we shall be counted. They shall be counted, and we shall be counted. And it'll be very, very interesting what our own particular visions now of Canada are, and we will have an excellent opportunity now to take us into the next century. And I guess I stand here today looking at that silver lining and almost feeling, Mr. Speaker, that we in fact have been blessed, because now we can face up to those issues that are in front of us. We can get them out of the way before the turn of the next century, and then we can be truly great.
Now a member for Redwater.
Mr. Speaker, I only want to take a few minutes. This resolution seemed to take on a life of its own. It was intended to be a congratulations and also to wish the very best to everyone. As I think the New Testament says, there's a time for living and a time for dying. There's a time for loving and a time for crying. I thought we were on the time for loving, but I heard a lot of crying over there. But all I wanted to get across is that as somebody that's won and lost many elections, I think that anyone that serves in the public sphere deserves congratulations, because let's face it, already the members opposite were starting to bring up some of the brickbats that they were ready to throw. So I think this should be a day where you're congratulating and wishing them well. There'll be lots of other days when you can say nasty things and wonder what they're doing, and I wanted to sort of bring the debate back to wishing them the very best. And also to those that may be that concerned, I have shared with a reformer, a constituency for some years now. The only reformer in the House is from my district. We seem to get along, and I think you can get along even with Conservatives, Mr. Speaker. There's so few of them now, I'm sure that it would be very inhumane, and it would be almost downright inhumane to say anything there. And I think even she, as a former leader who has seen my party wiped out when I was a leader, I know a little bit of what she feels like too, and I think we didn't have congratulations here, but anybody that serves in the public sector deserves congratulations, and I don't want to get into discussing what's going to happen and Reform or Bloc Québécois or the Liberals or Conservatives or the NDP. I just feel that this is a very good day for Canada, and I want to wish everyone well. Thanks.
Honourable Minister of Labour.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to being moved by the leader of the official opposition party here in our House to also join him and others in responding to this particular motion. And I see it broken into a number of parts, much as the member for Lethbridge West has identified some. And so first, I'd like to say that where the member for Glengarry talks about the achievement, there is quite an achievement in terms of what happened last night. And obviously we have to deal with the federal PC numbers. They seem to have diminished somewhat. And there's a message there for us, and it's a hard message, and it's a very tough one. And it's the message that political life is temporal at best, that none of us should think that we can continue in an indefinite way forever, but that times of reckoning do come. And there was a perception, I'm not saying it was reality, but there was a perception that the federal PC party had not been listening for some period of time, and different people will identify when that may have started or not. I'm not saying, well, not commenting whether that was the reality or not, but that was the message. And when people think you're not listening, they will give you a very, very strong message. And that, to me, there was something achieved there, though at tremendous personal cost to the worthy PC candidates who ran in that particular election. I think for Mr. Charest to be elected, it's somewhat historical, one of two in the entire country. And I guess the positive side for him, if at the next election there's 8 elected, he may be the only person, if he is leading in the House, maybe the only House leader federally to have quadrupled the numbers in one election span. So there's positive things to look forward to, even though I'm sure he must be considerably torn at this particular moment. So those are some things for us to contemplate in terms of political longevity. The voters have indeed the final say, and that is where our respect has to remain. An achievement for the Liberals, obviously, for whatever reason. a message went out that people somehow felt they deserved their support. We can't deny that. We have to acknowledge that. And they didn't fragment. They managed to keep a certain agenda throughout the campaign, and we can say whether we agree or not with the policies, but that was an achievement. In that lengthy campaign, I think all of us can identify the fact it's painful, the number of days that campaign has to go on. I think probably Newfoundland has the best idea of anything. Their campaign length is 21 days, and that spares the electorate a lot of pain, and certainly those involved in it. But it was an achievement. They got a message across that they deserve support. Now they have the formidable task, of course, of earning that support, and they'll need to be applying themselves to that. The Bloc achieved their purposes. Their policies clearly are Quebec first. That makes some people angry. That upsets some people, but we have to acknowledge that they were very open about that. They were very honest, and they significantly got their electorate behind them. I will look forward with some curiosity in terms of how they are going to be, if indeed after recounting they are the official opposition. That has yet to be determined. I recognize that. In light of their own national dreams for the province of Quebec, it will be interesting to see how they salute the flag, take the oath of allegiance, and indeed represent all of Canada as an official opposition, and that is the job of the official opposition. So that will be, I'll look forward with some curiosity to how they do that. But again, we have to acknowledge they were open and honest, and it was quite an achievement to get the number of people elected that they did. Obviously, there was a huge achievement on the part of the Reform Party, being led by Preston Manning. Again, whether we agree with the policies or not, and whether people are happy about the results or not, they conveyed a message that they could, certainly in Western Canada, that they could be trusted, that they would speak for people and the concerns in Western Canada and in one small area in Ontario. And quite significant that I think they've only been 2 years officially campaigning in the province of Ontario and achieved something like 20% of the vote. So again, no matter what political part of the political spectrum you're from, that is quite an achievement. They hit a lot of the right nerves. Certainly, their endorsement here in Alberta was, in an indirect way, an endorsement of our own fiscal policies. We've been very straightforward in terms of reducing our deficit and being very determined on that. That was a main message that they carried forward. Albertans are responding to that message. And I think they triggered a response in people that they would speak for issues that the national parties, both national parties, the Liberal and Conservative, were perceived, and I emphasize again, perceived to not be addressing. The deficit again comes up. The whole area of listening, reform of the institutions of government, dealing more significantly with issues related to crime. A lot of things that were at least perceived by people not to be being dealt with over the last number of years, they've said clearly we're going to deal with them, and that got support, and so the significant achievement of the Reform Party needs to be acknowledged. The member for Glengarry then talks about sending congratulations to every successful Alberta candidate, and I think that's proper. I know, speaking for myself in Red Deer, I will also be congratulating those who were not, quote, successful. Because anybody who has the nerve, the courage, maybe the stupidity at times to throw their hat in the political ring needs to be congratulated for that. No matter what we think or what people think of politicians or elected people, that's a significant achievement. Just to make that decision, to publicly put yourself out in front of the public and say, here's what I stand for, here's what I believe, to know that people are going to disagree with you, to know that they're going to remember what you say, to know that if you make a mistake, it'll be recorded forever. That takes a lot of courage, and I will be congratulating Doug Fee, our former Progressive Conservative member, a very hard-working elected person who always put considerable, and I would say even excessive, time and effort into his constituency work, needs to be and will be congratulated by myself for working so hard as an elected member. I think also the NDP candidate will be hearing, I know we'll be hearing from me, Karen McLaren. Also, again, though I don't agree with most of the policies enunciated by that party, again, the courage to go forth, even under formidable odds, not really having any chance, certainly in our area in Central Alberta, of being elected, and yet willing to put it on the line and speak up for things that she believes in strongly. That needs to be acknowledged. I say that in the same for Joan Hepburn of the National Party and Ken Arnold with the Natural Law Party. And I had the opportunity to run against Ken, or he against me, in the provincial election. So he's now put his name on the line twice in just a period of months, and enunciating certain principles which, let's face it, have garnered no small amount of ridicule. The thought of not having to pave roads because you've developed a new mode of transportation. Certainly when he enunciated that in our public meetings, he got quite a bit of ridicule. And yet he is continuing now in another arena federally to enunciate principles he believes in. I will say, too, about Ken that at our public forums, of all the candidates, he was the only one who didn't actually get antagonistic, and he didn't throw barbs and get caught up in the heat of the debate. And I have to admit, even my own gentle self from time to time was moved to comments that could deem to be heated in the debates, but Ken always stayed above, he floated above that, and managed to, I think, set a bit of an example for the rest of us. So he'll be getting congratulations also for me. And our Liberal candidate, Dobie Toe, again, an individual who is in face of formidable odds, and someone who's known in the business community and who operates a business, and sometimes people worry, you know, by stating certain principles that could hurt their business. But I would say that Dobie has set a record of serving the public through his business enough that he knew he didn't have to risk that he would be respected for his stand even against formidable odds. And I'll still stop in there for the odd fortune cookie at Dobie's restaurant and give him my congratulations. So those congratulations will go to all people who ran in Red Deer. In terms of expectations and the best interests of Albertans, that is now where the scrutiny will lie, certainly on the members elected from Alberta. And I would say to the federal Liberals that we all need to give them the benefit of considerable doubt that many of us carry in terms of what their performance will be. We do need to do that, to wait and see their performance. We do know that as far as deficit reduction, they don't have a history of severe restraint on the financial spending side. We know they have a history quite the opposite, of not being concerned about large deficits and debt. And so, even though we've heard that there is some determination to reduce that, we will encourage them in that area, and we will withhold, or I certainly withhold judgment, but I will be watching with some trepidation as to how they pursue that. The policies enunciated by the federal Liberals during the campaign also caused some angst on my part, and I would think on the part of some of my colleagues, when they talk about huge plans in terms of rebuilding infrastructure and getting people working. Those are nice sounding things, but we know there's dollar figures behind those. I think they enunciated a figure of some $6 billion in terms of programs, and the difficulty for us will come when these are presented to provinces on a cost-shared basis, and where they may be looking to job stimulation programs that we might not philosophically or even fiscally agree with, and yet the hook there of the cost-shared approach could impact on our own deficit elimination. I don't know that, but we're going to have to watch that carefully. So some of their concerns about NAFTA don't coincide with most Albertans, and certainly not with mine. I'm glad to see and glad to have heard them during the campaign talk about the fact they want to look at reducing interprovincial trade barriers and overlap of federal-provincial duplication. We'll pursue that with them with optimism, but with some degree of concern also. We will be meeting with our Alberta MPs. Certainly have already indicated that to the successful reform candidate, Mr. Bob Mills, in Red Deer, that I want to be meeting with him and discussing issues of concern to us as Albertans, and certainly shared areas of concern within our own constituency, so that we can work together in terms of addressing them. I leave with a thought, too, if we're passing on congratulations, and we know that all federal MPs will be poring over the Alberta Hansard to see word by word exactly what all of us had to say. I'm sure that'll be their first method of business. There's really, what I think, a really strong exhortation from a former political leader in years past that I'd like to quote. And actually, he goes back quite a few years. He held political office actually for 4 decades, and ruled or governed in a particularly precarious situation. And he was a ruler of the country of Israel, and it was probably, well, it would be close to 3,000 years ago. But his words were faithfully transcribed down through the years. And the person's name is Solomon. He actually is a historical figure. He did live and exist in time, and that's a proven fact, so his words can be taken with some credence. And he said, and I would pass on to these newly elected people, but also to ourselves, because his admonition speaks to me. He was offered the opportunity to have anything. He was offered that by the divine ruler of all people and all things. And God basically said to him, have anything you like, because you've found favor in my eyes. And it's like, you know, think about it. You're offered anything. So some people might want to be head of a committee, or have a certain type of car, or might want to be leader of the opposition. Those are things which could loom large in people's minds, usually towards personal gain. But Solomon's response so impressed the divine, all-knowing ruler that, in fact, a lot of other things were added to him because of his response. And that's the admonition that I'll leave with our federal newly elected MPs, but also reflecting back, and I take it to heart myself, the words of Solomon where he says, give your servant a discerning heart to govern your people and to distinguish between right and wrong. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member for Medicine Hat.
It is a pleasure for me to rise today to speak in support of this motion. And I have to be quite honest with members of the House and with you, Mr. Speaker, when I heard that the member from Glengarry was going to propose a motion today, I thought that it could tend to be a little partisan, and I was very pleased with the wording of the motion. This motion is something that I have absolutely no problem supporting, and there has been a good deal said this afternoon on several different areas, but I would like to deal particularly with the last part of the motion, where he suggests that a message of congratulations be sent to all of the individual MPs who were elected last night. Certainly as a relative newcomer myself, I can well imagine the day that those people are having, and I just would like to offer a little bit of advice, my own advice from my small amount of experience here in the Alberta legislature, and I'm sure that once these new members get to Ottawa, to a large extent they will be going through many of the same things that the new members here in the Alberta legislature went through. And I guess what I would like to convey when Mr. Speaker, when you do convey our words of encouragement to these newly elected MPs, is the fact that they must remember their roots here in Alberta, and the fact that when you look at the results of the election last night, the extremely strong showing of reform in Western Canada particularly, and in Alberta, shows that the people of Alberta are deeply concerned about debt and deficit reduction. That message came through very loud and clear in the recent provincial election campaign, and it's been said before that it seems that for some reason the federal Conservatives were not perceiving that as coming through as strong as what they should have. And there's no doubt in my mind that reform members that we will have representing us in Ottawa must always keep in mind that they have to deliver on what they've promised. And certainly that's what we as a provincial government are doing, is delivering on what we promised. And it'll be very difficult for them to do so in an opposition role. But I think that certainly we have had experience here in this legislature with the opposition in a minority situation, and they certainly have ample opportunity to affect the laws and acts that are proposed by the government. As we have seen, we have had some terrific debate in this legislature, and the members opposite have brought forward some very timely and good advice, and from time to time, certainly, we have considered it on this side of the House, and it has given us an opportunity to broaden our perspective. And I would hope that the members that are representing Alberta in Ottawa will look at that role that they will have, and will take an opportunity to have input as opposition members representing Alberta. Now, we also have some Liberal members from Alberta that will be sitting on the government side of the House. And those members are the ones that we need to send the strongest message to, because those are the members that will be in government caucus, and those are the members that must be delivering the message to the rest of the government in Ottawa that Alberta will not stand for some of the shenanigans that went on by previous Liberal governments. And we weren't
heckle on a 40.
Well, I look forward to the Alberta representatives in the Liberal caucus to carrying through on their election promise to eliminate the GST. I think that should be most interesting, Mr. Speaker, and I do indeed look forward to that. And it has been said that by some, and certainly not by me, Mr. Speaker, but by some, that what they will end up doing is certainly eliminating the GST and bringing another tax of similar circumstance with a different name. But certainly we would welcome the opportunity as Albertans to encourage our representatives to try and avoid that situation, because I think that the Deputy Premier made it very clear earlier that this government, the government of Alberta, was the only provincial government that in fact fought the GST, that in fact took the federal government to court on the GST. And I don't think there would be any opposition from this government if we had Alberta representatives in Ottawa getting rid of the GST. Now, I also want to just talk a little bit about what it's like to be a newly elected representative, because the people from Alberta are going to be experiencing that. With the exception of one member, all of the members in Alberta will be brand new. 2? 3? Excuse me for... The vast majority of them will be new.
Many.
You know, and I think that it's important that they realize what they've gotten themselves into, and that they are prepared to dedicate their lives, their personal lives that they will no longer have, serving their constituents. And I know that as a provincial representative from a relatively small constituency, it's time-consuming enough. And for the federal representatives with much larger constituencies, much larger geographic areas in the rural constituencies, and in the cities, the Calgary and Edmonton areas, they too will have a much larger role to play than even we as provincial representatives. But they have to be continually listening to what people have to say. And that's, if I've learned nothing else as a representative, is I have learned to listen to people. And I was participating a while ago in a ceremony at the senior center in Medicine Hat, and we had a terrific conversation with a number of the people after the official part of the program was over with, and there was a number of the people there who expressed to me deep concern about some of the cost cutting that this government is taking, and I listened to all of them, and they all were concerned. But you know, Mr. Speaker, we talked a little while longer, and we started to talk about what is debt and what is deficit, and these people really didn't understand the situation that we've gotten ourselves into in Alberta, and the same situation in Canada. People don't seem to realize that we're not talking about eliminating debt. We're talking about eliminating a deficit. And that message has to come through. And when these newly elected MPs are listening to their constituents, hearing their concerns, that message has to come through. That government is no different than any individual sitting in this legislature this afternoon, or any of the people in the constituencies back home. No one, governments included, can continually live beyond their means without suffering dire consequences. And I think we've seen the consequences of a government that permits that to happen. And I think the people of Alberta particularly will not put up with a government that insists on living beyond its means any longer. They've made it very clear to us as provincial representatives, and now I think that they've made it extremely clear to the federal politicians in their role representing us in Ottawa. So I do, Mr. Speaker, want to thank the member from Glengarry for bringing this motion forward, giving everyone an opportunity to speak to this motion, a very well done, well-worded motion. And Mr. Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity to speak to it this afternoon, and I too will be happy to support this motion.
Honourable member for Clover Bar, Fort Saskatchewan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's with pride that I stand to speak to this motion that our honourable leader put forward. I think it's very important that, irrespective of what political stripe you come from, that we do indeed congratulate every successful Albertan candidate and send congratulations to each of the leaders. It's with interest that I've listened to the comments from both sides of the floor. And as a new Canadian and Albertan, the first thing that comes to my mind when we're looking at democracy, and one thing that has always made me uncomfortable, and I hear it continually within this Assembly, Mr. Speaker, is the word or the phrase that we were elected, you were not. I wouldn't be sitting here today if I had not been elected. That is a democratic process. And I think as Canadians, we have something to learn, and we should learn it fast. And I hope that every newly elected person notes this, that divisionary politics does not serve anyone. It doesn't serve your nation. And if we indeed are going to be successful in competing in a global market, we have to learn all to work together. As a former subject of Britain and watching the rise of the Scottish Nationalist Party and separatism within Great Britain, it certainly has not served that country well. And what I'd say today to every elected person, and I'd also like to point out, Mr. Speaker, if it hadn't been for politicians not listening or not hearing, I wouldn't be standing here before you today. I decided to get back into the political arena to ensure that people were heard. And I'd also like to point out that whether it be Conservatives, Liberals or Reform, if you don't listen to what's being said, you do not serve your constituents well. And I think that one thing that I would find refreshing, if we could start to see it happening within this Assembly, is to move forward, and indeed, as some of the honourable members mentioned, to start to work together. And I would say one of the areas where we can all work together to ensure Albertans and Canadians are heard is freedom of information, the right to recall, the very things that the honourable member from Cyprus, Medicine Hat, was identifying. We on this side of the House clearly speak on behalf of Albertans when it comes to freedom of information. So I'd ask all members, let's remove partisan politics from this motion and truly take the spirit of this motion and support it unanimously. Mr. Speaker, thank you.
Now, member for Edmonton Centre.
Speaker, a couple of very brief comments. I know that we're going on in the debate in the hour. Firstly, I would like to thank my leader and for bringing forward this motion, and as well for several of the members who have spoken sometimes very generously in favor of the motion on both sides of the House. When I have to admit, and I think we all in this legislature being a part of public life, last night we had some joys, some excitement, but also some disappointments. There were many women and men across this country, many of whom I know to be good people, who have a positive contribution to make, who did not get elected. Many who did get elected from several parties, and I would like to join in congratulating all of those individuals. Public life isn't easy, and everybody in this House knows that. It is difficult, and I think we have a duty to commend those who put their name forward for public life. I think, however, that I find myself shocked on this side of the House to be consistently lectured about deficit creation and deficit control, and I wonder where that's coming from, given relative histories. However, I also want to point out that I believe there are times in the House where, very clearly in the parliamentary system, where it is very partisan and where there are different philosophies and different ideologies that we take each other to task on. However, there are those times in the House, and the honourable member from Clover Bar, 4th Saskatchewan, has indicated that, where it is appropriate for us to rise above that. I want to put on record that I am disappointed at the level of some of the debate, particularly the member from Cypress Medicine Hat. I thought some of the comments were intended to provoke debate. Some of the comments were very seriously partisan. If I misinterpreted that, I apologize, but I regret those comments. I regret those comments being made in the context of this motion. I very much appreciated the words that the Honourable Deputy Government House Leader left us with quotations from Solomon, which I do appreciate, and as well the member from Lethbridge East, whose comments I appreciated as well. Lethbridge West, I'm sorry. Lethbridge West. I would ask all members, again, to put aside the partisan bias. Again, we all shared, I'm sure, excitement and disappointment last night with individual members that we may have come across in our professional and personal lives, for those who are elected and those who are not. And I would ask us to rise in unanimous support of this motion. And I would also perhaps offer to members of the House that perhaps there are times when we need to recognize that motions from both sides of the House, and certainly the Government House Leader made some very positive comments, when we have motions from both sides that have come from both sides of the House, that we need to rise above that, that we need to speak in a non-partisan way. And frankly, comments that are made from a very partisan viewpoint on a matter that I think we all agree should be non-partisan, I believe take away from any of the other comments that are made. And again, I did want to go on record as expressing disappointment at those comments. I urge everybody to support this motion. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Now, the member for Calgary-Egmont.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to congratulate all candidates and all leaders who ran in the federal election, whether they were successful or not. I share in the pain of those who were not successful, and I wish to congratulate in a special way those who won their seats in all parts of this great land. Mr. Speaker, I think it's important to congratulate all successful parties and all successful leaders, including Mr. Bouchard of the Bloc Québécois and Ms. McLaughlin of the New Democrats. Now, I look at this motion and I listened very intently as the honourable leader of the opposition delivered his congratulations, and noted that he did not congratulate Mr. Bouchard or Mrs. McLaughlin. I hope that that was an oversight on his part. Mr. Speaker, this is not a time to snub any leader or any party who was successful in running for the federal government. I think it's particularly important not to ignore politicians who were successful in la belle province, province of Quebec. Quebec is a unique province with its own unique sets of problems, but they're all Canadians like the rest of us, and deserve no less in terms of our congratulations and our friendship, and indeed, we will have to work together for national unity. So while I support the principle of the motion, I certainly hope it was not meant to exclude those that I've indicated, and I will vote for the motion in the spirit that it wasn't done deliberately.
Good show. Assembly ready for the question? All those in favor of the motion proposed by the Honourable Leader of the Opposition, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Let the record show it carries unanimously. Orders of the day.
Government bills and orders for second reading. Bill number 12.